look like a fool while I climb up on a chair to get the samples. You guys can just
climb on a chair. There's so many ways I can make fun of you for that.
You'll see it, but you'll see.
You go do what you gotta do.
So yeah, anyways, Rob is Hohen, Rob, just to formally introduce you guys.
How's it going, man?
Good.
Yeah,
nice
so Rob I've known since we used to work together at TF, like way back since like 2007. But Hohen I've known since like 98, since junior high, or freshman year of high school. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, just to like get you guys situated.
Awesome. Cool. Do what you gotta do.
Dude, how's the weather in Hawaii right now?
I mean, it's
the normal every day in Hawaii.
It's horrible, yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah. We went through wow, he really is getting on that chair. That looks dangerous. That looks super dangerous, man.
Let's clarify that that's a stool, not a chair, for our listeners.
Holy crap.
That's a bar stool.
This looks so sketchy. Oh, man. No, we just came off of like December, January is rainy season over here. So it's been super rainy. So it's really nice right now. So can't complain. But I'll take rain over negative degrees,
Chicago, you mean?
Yeah, just in general. Yeah, just in general. But yeah.
This winter was particularly like blisteringly cold, I feel like. For like
that's
long
what I hear.
Time.
Yeah. But we're right in that phase where like, I mean, I remember April, sometimes early May, like random crazy snowstorms and cold snaps and stuff, right? So
yeah,
I hope you guys don't have that. But
you're talking about weather
right now.
Yeah.
It's the perfect subject for two people who meet for the first time.
Yeah, I mean,
look at Hawaii weather out there, dude. I'm just like jealous.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm gonna come see you. I don't know when because I'm actually going to LA now for Thanksgiving because my brother just moved and he invited us over.
Oh, nice.
Because he's going to Korea for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to go out there to see you in Christmas, but now I'm going to try to see if I can work it out somehow, some point.
Yeah, and I mean I would stay away from holidays to be honest. My hands get tied, flights are crazy, places are packed. And this year is even crazier because it's funny, like you talked about it on Phil's episode a couple of weeks ago, right? But like, I'd say since then, we've seen the travel industry, which is my trade, my business, has just gone ape shit. Like, as vaccines get rolled out, people kind of get complacent and are just like, fuck it, I'm going somewhere, right? So we're prime location. I don't know. I hope you had invested in airline stocks at that point because maybe it would probably help you now.
Cruises.
Yeah, I don't know about cruises. Cruises are still a little bit
still iffy, yeah, but it's gonna happen.
No, it'll happen. It'll come back. But I mean, so anyway, it's just been crazy. But for whatever you want to travel out here, just work with me on the time frames, and I can tell you when to come.
Wait, is spring better or fall better?
Fall. I say that the perfect time, if you can make it work around family stuff, is probably like between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay. There's like a dead zone there where like, everyone's busy with Thanksgiving, busy with Christmas, then there's that dead zone where people typically don't travel. So it's fairly inexpensive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have the extended trip out to LA. So maybe we'll just fly to Hawaii. We'll just rearrange it and fly to Hawaii, see you right after Thanksgiving.
And that's perfect. And you're already halfway there anyway. So.
Exactly.
That's an awesome tip too. Now, our listeners don't.
Go see Hawaii in the fall.
Yeah.
Now there's gonna be a boom that week, a couple weeks before between the Christmas and Thanksgiving.
It's cool. Call me. I'll help you out. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll do it at the end. I was gonna say, do you want to shout out the hotel? You can plug it at the end, or you plug it now. I don't really care.
It's all right.
All right.
We'll do it later.
Oh, God damn it! I'm so unprepared. I'm so sorry, guys. So originally I was supposed to start this meeting with Hohen at 9:30 my time, right? So 8:30 Chicago time, which is 3:30 in Honolulu, right?
Yeah.
Or no, 2:30. No, 3:30. But I got held up working, and so 10 minutes before the meeting this call was supposed to start, I get set up with Hohen, brief him, deal with the tech issues with my computer, and then text you to just start the thing. Ultimately to say, Hohen, again, this is the third time we've messed up the intro.
I mean,
So simple.
Or at this point, that just has become the intro. So you
Yeah,
read it
yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah. So
know?
I guess
Maybe
welcome.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no like set intro. It's just you just roll into it, right?
Yeah, you just mess up every time.
Maybe we should just give up. I feel like it's like a losing battle. Like I was going to start like the intro and then just like roll into it, but that ship has sailed.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, you'll edit this all up anyway, right? I mean, however you do. Although,
I'm
have
getting
you been editing it much?
No, I've gotten lazy for sure
Oh,
because
okay.
the work.
Yeah. I feel you on that.
Dude, we just need to redefine what a successful opening is.
I'm gonna take
That's true.
You know, if we just define successful opening as a failed one because it's a running joke now, it's great. You know.
Sure. So yeah, I guess if anyone's keeping track, welcome to Spirit Build, the podcast where we have drinks with the people behind car culture or something like that.
Yeah,
whatever. Not important. So Rob, I picked out a couple of these bourbons for you actually.
Awesome. Awesome.
Because I know you actually you like Japanese whiskey, right? But
yeah, I mean, I really enjoy whiskey, but I'm like I would assume many, or I don't really consider myself a connoisseur. I just kind of pick up stuff. I try stuff. I like it. If you ask me why I like it, I'd be like, I don't know, because I like it. You know, yeah, you know, and I don't have a bunch of, you know, complex terminology on how I like it or why I like it.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know, but I think it's for whatever reason, Japanese whiskey just has always been, if I could say on a blanket, kind of like smoother for me. I'm a very, you know, for drinks in general, like I'm not a big IPA drinker. Like I like a hef, you know, or, you know, and so anything smooth without a lot of bite is typically where I go. So something a little less peaty is usually where I kind of land. Yeah. But definitely, you know, I've been spoiled with my whiskey background too, having lived, you know, like 30 minutes from the Yamazaki distillery, and I'm sure we'll get there at some point. But you know, I used to go to take their tours and do their tasting library, like, you know, 2 or 3 times a year. So,
that's so cool,
really lucky. Yeah. So it's a little bit spoiled, right? I guess in that regard.
I'm still mad. I never got to see you in Japan, but like we were just too young.
Yeah.
I didn't have the money. Actually, I was in Korea, right? I could have hopped over and saw you.
That's what we were always joking about. I remember it was like, I was there, you were there.
Yeah.
The same thing. I mean, I was spending every dollar I had on cars and shit, and I should have used some of my time and money to like hop around Southeast Asia, which I did none of. Yeah. I sat at home and ate ramen and drifted at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, like, I mean, that was the priority, but you look back on it and you're like, shit, I should use that opportunity. Yeah, I was just like home base in the middle, you know, over there. I could have jumped to hang out with you in Korea, which I've always wanted to do, or any number of places in Southeast Asia. Man. So now there's no way. Like it'll be when my kids are out of the house in like 16 years or something.
Yeah, I know. Like, so like one thing about me and Hoen, we actually lived together in Korea for 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were roommates in Korea, and that was so every dollar then was going towards drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. But I remember
so
like
much drinking we had.
Yeah, like when you were there, I remember I wanted to go. I remember, you know, a lot of my friends over the past 20 years have been Korean. Yourself, Phil, you know, Mike Lee, Dave Lee, you know, Bruce Lee, you know, like all these people, you know, like, you know, and I think especially talking with Dave and with Mike so many times, like, oh, we got to go to Korea. It'd be awesome. We're going to hang out. We're going to do that. And just these amazing stories of how crazy Korea would be with, you know, with them have always been in my mind, but just never happened, which is really unfortunate. And now you can't, even if we went now, it'd be different because we have, you have kids and responsibilities. Wait. I mean, they might not be there, but you still gotta be like, okay, I can't do this because if I die or get put in jail or get like, that's not gonna work.
Wait. Quick question. How often do you and the girls go back to Japan?
Before it was once a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Before COVID?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's cheaper, right? Because you're from Hawaii. You're going from Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, I'm halfway already, right? And so it's a fairly quick flight. And, you know, from like a vacation perspective, it's the easiest option because we go stay with her family. My wife's family is Japanese. We stay with her family. The grandparents are there and can help watch. The sister who has 2 kids are there to play with. So it's like one of those things where, you know, if I went to Disneyland, there's no relaxation time.
So,
You're
right.
But
So
you go to Japan and I'm like, here's the kids, have fun, and then I can actually like relax.
So this is the way my brain works. What time of year do you go to Japan?
We typically go in April, right about
April.
Actually, end of April, early May tends to be where we typically went. And so the reasoning behind that was there's a holiday period in Japan called Golden Week. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's typically early May. It's a string of holidays that kind of end up being this really long holiday period, and pretty much the entire country takes off. And so, and it creates a lot of travel problems outside. So like here in Hawaii, traditionally, that's a big period where a lot of Japanese will come to Hawaii. But what we found is because everyone's leaving, if we go at the same time, the flight over is actually really cheap. When you get there, it's a little bit quieter. And like, it just worked out really, really well.
It's like how almost every country outside of America, it seems like they have like a designated vacation like, week or month, and the entire nation just takes off. And so like dealing, you know, because I remember doing like international business, like I was trying to get a hold of Germany. It's like, no, there's no one in Germany for the entire month. It's like, what do you mean?
And if you get a hold of them, they'll just be drunk.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
So I get what you're saying.
And Japan has started to be smart about it because like literally when you would try to drive on the highway or take the train or whatever, like it would just be packed. And so prefecture by prefecture, or roughly in that kind of, they'd break it up and actually split it out. So like this week is for these and this week is for these, as much as they could a little bit to try and ease the whole system of transport. But it's been a while since I've lived there, so I don't know how it is going these days. But you know, it's definitely it's a good time to visit in there too, because depending on the weather, like it could potentially still be cherry blossom season, which is always something that people want to try and see when you go. And then you're just before summer, which I mean, summer in Japan can be sweltering. I mean, I know we're used to like a late summer in Chicago where like you take the shower and you need a shower.
It's monsoon
like
season,
later,
right?
Yeah, you're right. Like just crazy humid, right? And so it gets like that. And so it's nice to go in that period just before that really starts to hit. The other problem with that area, that time frame though, it's allergy season, like really, really bad. So if you have bad allergies, like you're going to be down. So but and that's place by place, but
How long ago were you in Japan?
I left. Right? Yeah, it's actually fine. It's like 10 years almost to the day that we left.
You left 10
Hawaii.
years ago?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's time's flying, and it was crazy.
When did you go to Japan?
Well, I mean, I've been multiple times, right? I mean, the first time I went to Japan was in high school, but
I meant when did you quit TF to move?
Oh, that was 2008.
Holy shit.
2008. And I was there till 11. So, I mean, I wasn't there any more than 3 years that time.
But that was like that 3-year time frame where I kept going back and forth to Korea.
Yeah, I remember you were
like
back
every summer.
There.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that coupled with other time to spend, I probably spent total like 4 or 4.5 years in Japan. So, yeah. But I've been away quite a lot. I've been fortunate to go back a few times since, you know, being here, whether it's through, you know, final bout or just vacations or now the family and stuff like that. So it's,
Where in Japan did you stay again? Was it Osaka?
No, I was in Kyoto.
Kyoto? Okay.
Yeah.
What made you go to Japan in the first place?
You know, I had always wanted to live there. And that really started, you know, I kind of stumbled on the Japanese language. In junior high, the high school nearby came over and the teacher kind of was trying to sell us on Japanese because like a lot of schools, I'm sure you guys were probably the same. Like in high school, you had to take a second language. And you had the standard like French and, you know, Spanish and all those. Yeah, but we had a teacher
Latin,
who had Japanese, Latin, because that's really helped you out. I mean, maybe it has.
We've debated this. We actually debated this like a month ago.
my logic was that there was no speaking part, so it was I only needed to learn half the language. That was my logic.
It's so lazy. It's so genius.
I've learned from now this and your reason why you're into cars, Hohen, because it just is a easy thing for you to get around. It's like you go for the lazy route, don't you? Is that? Well, I mean,
I think lazy is
smart. Maybe it's smart.
It's smart efficient.
You know, that's true. That's efficient. Yeah, that's right. Exactly, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
I am lazy, but that allows me to find a more efficient.
There you go.
But here's the irrelevant tangent on why I brought up Latin in the first place, is because the absurdity of the situation. That he was learning a dead language, and his Latin teacher was the guy who was basically the year before my in-school suspension supervisor, because he was waiting to get a job as a teacher. And he was like fresh out of college. He was like 22, and I was like 8 or 17.
Yeah.
So like he's like 23, and I'm like 18, and I'm like, why am I listening to you, dude?
I believe it was his second year that I first met him.
Exactly. So. I just remember that. That's why I'm like every time you mention Latin, I just remember like this kid teaching other kids.
Oh man.
Well, yeah. So you got into Japanese. For the full
So it was interesting because I just took it as a way to be different, because everyone was taking the normal, the French, the Spanish. I mean, Spanish for sure in Chicago, as like that definitely comes in handy, right?
Yeah.
But I just took it to be different, because I was like, I'll just do something for the 2-year requisite and I'll be done. And then I kind of really just fell into it, and where we grew up, or where I grew up in the Elk Grove kind of Schaumburg area, really close to Arlington Heights, where
like
Yaohan, Mitsuwa is, and so it kind of evolved, because on a school trip we would go over there as a class to like go to the Japanese supermarket and stuff, and then gravitate towards the bookstore, and then I was already into cars before, and then you walk over and you're like, Option 2 magazine, what's this? Holy crap, what is this? Like,
the whole new world.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where the first video that I ever bought was Best Motoring, and it was like,
nice.
Those old videos where they're like drag racing.
Which one was it?
I don't remember which one it was. It might have been, actually I do remember, it was when the first 911 Turbo came out.
The 996?
I think the 996, but then then they're like testing it on like the high speed course versus a R34, and drag racing it versus an NSXR, and it's like and it's like just super cool because it's all Japanese, and I'm like, I can pick pieces up, I kind of can hear what they're saying, and like so that was my introduction to that whole side of car culture, which had already been there. I mean, I grew up getting Matchbox cars like a lot of kids, or just from my dad, like watching F1 races every Sunday morning at some ungodly hour, stuff like that. So it had always been there. It was just like this new world that just inadvertently was because I decided to take Japanese that was opened up to me. And then, it just kind of snowballed from there, and my want to go over there really came from, I hosted kids at my house all 4 years of high school in an exchange, and then I went twice, and then it just snowballs from there. And so I mean, when I moved over, my first year there was as a college student, so just to study abroad. And then when I moved back, graduated at the North Central down in Naperville, and then I went back, had a job kind of right away, and went back and taught English. But in no way did I really want to work as an English teacher. It was just a means to get there and immerse myself in car culture. That was the only thing, I mean, it's the easiest way to get there. You get paid shit, but
you get sustained life.
But
I mean, it was a time where, I mean, I think my apartment, little studio, I was paying like $700 a month or something. And all the other money just went to the minimal amount of sustenance you need to be alive as a human being, and then a lot of oil and gas and tires and parts and entry fees and just all that kind of stuff. So
the dream, though.
As
a 20-year-old, right? Like in your 20s, like that is the dream.
Yeah. I mean,
I get it.
looking back, it was just like, man, that was the
cool,
life,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I miss
the life.
it. I still think
I miss it. Yeah. But you got to grow up too at some point, I guess.
Yeah. Like
maybe you don't have to. You don't have to. I know there's, but
to be fair, like TF is still like probably like when we were working there, that was like my favorite job. All right, like it's just go to work, be around cars, and just goof off all day, and then ship up some parts when you need to. But it's mostly goofing off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, man, that was a great time when we worked there. In the beginnings of Touge Factory, that was really cool because it was a melding of these two worlds of like, I got to work to do what I want to do, and then why not be able to do it at this really cool place?
Yeah, I mean, like
that was.
If you remember, like that at that point, like I dropped out of Northern after being like roommates with Lil Phil, and then like I was just kind of like bumming around the summer and trying to figure out what I was gonna do. Yeah. And then Lil Phil was like, "Hey man, like I know like Dave from TF, like he needs help like unpacking like these origin this origin container." So I was like, "All right, cool."
Hated those containers.
Oh my god, they're the fucking worst. Like I was like explaining yesterday.
What's so bad about it?
So when you unpack these containers, they come in like vinyl wrap, right? But it's like fiberglass and it goes through the ocean and it's not waterproof. So like when you unpack them, like I got like JDM fiberglass and like seawater in my like face and mouth as I'm like unpacking these. They're packed with like they're like bumpers, right? So there's like in like it's like a 53-foot container. And there's like an order of like 1,000 different bumpers and side skirts, literally 1,000.
Oh,
and we have to
unloading
so we have to unpack them, right? Then we have to label them, inventory them. Then we have to mark them, sort them, and then put them up, right?
Yeah.
And then update that to QuickBooks. So when the orders come through, they get shipped out, and then we keep the inventory flow correct. So quickly, I learned like how like supply chain works through that, like inadvertently,
But man, dude, those days were like, man, I can't. I'm sure it took years off of our lives, honestly. Like, I mean, you'd wear a mask, but like the fiberglass was just like,
Why was there like fiberglass?
OSHA, what's up, OSHA? Hope you're not watching it.
Yeah. Because I mean, like there's just the dust of like
just
fiberglass.
Yeah, like it rubs together with other pieces. It kind of comes apart, and then.
Japanese wood, like Japanese like bacteria.
Oh, that was the worst part because you remember they would have all the wood like nailed together to like hold everything up, but you had to pull it apart with pry bars to get to the next level.
Right.
And like it was just, I mean, look, I mean, it made me appreciate manual labor, and the people who do that for a living are way stronger than me in willpower. I mean.
That's why I try to quickly make my way up to the office as quick as possible. Like I'm not cut out for this shit.
Yeah, but you remember, I mean, it didn't matter. I mean, Dave was there unpacking with us. Like it was all hands on deck. There was never like all right, you guys have fun, I'm gonna drink over here. It was like it was all hands on deck, which was cool. But like
just to give like a scope, like to give like context to the scope. At first, it was 153-foot container, and I remember it was you, me, Simba, Wortman, and Lil Phil, maybe Lil Phil was there, maybe not, right? So there's 5 or 6 of us. It was 153. No, it was like a 40-foot container, and it took us like 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
But when we moved to the Elk Grove place, it would be a 53-foot container plus a 20-foot container, and then there would be 8 of us, and we would unpack it in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
We got it down to like a science.
Yeah, we got it down, and then when the coilovers started happening, that was a whole other crazy.
Yeah, but those were always on pallets, so it was just like forklift. We just have to like unbox them, put them on the pallets. But it's like 60-pound boxes. You're tossing hundreds of these to stack them in pallets, like 6 feet. They're higher than I am, so I'm lifting these 60-pound. Right? It's like at that point, like maybe 40% of my body weight over my head to stack them.
Yeah, but those were good times, man. I mean, there wasn't a lot of jobs at the time that would allow me to be, or any of us to be kind of in tune with the market and like the hobby that we enjoyed, and still be making money doing it. I mean, there'd be days, we'd, bust off early to go like, I don't know, well, Korean barbecue is one of them. Like we bust off early to just go, everyone have dinner on a Friday night, which is always a circus
It's because it's not just the TF employees. It's like TF employees and friends. So it's a side. There's a sideshow to it.
Yeah, but like but if there's an event, like we would leave work early a day to go to like Hot Import Nights, like roll in, or like some other event, or like when Formula D was in town, it was like everyone gets off. So it's like not many jobs at the time afforded you to like do these things. That we wanted to go to anyway. And it was like, well, it's just part of the job.
Yeah.
Right? So that was really cool.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, I'm going to spend money, but instead I can get paid. Yeah. So I'll just do that. Yeah. And the only reason I didn't stay at TF is like, well, I can't live on like $15 an hour. So I guess I got to get a real job sometime.
Yeah. But I mean, it paid bills. It allowed you to buy parts at a discount, right? It was just kind of for an early 20s car guy, like it was heaven, right? Like you couldn't ask for more in a job, right? And I mean, I think we talked about it before, but the amount of people that have gone through as employees of that company is almost like you can connect so many people from Touge Factory and having worked there to where they connect in other places within car culture now. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean,
it is that map of like the effect.
Yeah, because I mean, like I met Dave before he even had the shop, like, and then all the way up to now, where it's like everyone who's worked there in some form or fashion are friends and connected, right? And it's just like, it's just crazy to see where it's gone and to see how much that actually was kind of the backdrop and kind of backbone of what we started and what evolved in the Chicagoland area in that 2001 to 2008, 9, 10, 11 timeframe. Because before everyone would head up to a drift event, it was always meet up at Touge Factory, shoot the shit for a couple hours, and then head up for that shitty like 4 to 5 hour drive, right? It was just like, it was always the central meeting point. That is just ingrained in my memory of just some of the really like amazing times I had during those years, right? And so but I still remember, man. Did you work there when Phil used to work? He lived in Madison, but he lived or he stayed in Chicagoland for the summer. But he was like sleeping on the couch at Touge Factory for a while. Do you remember that? He was doing like mosquito abatement or something like that.
So
that was crazy. That was great, but that's how crazy this place was. Like, he was like living there and like half working there, half doing this, and like it was just like it was this place where it was like almost
this is Northbrook, right?
Yeah. It's like in my mind, I like historically, it almost was like Seinfeld's apartment. Where, like everyone was just like
Kramer.
Yeah. But it's just like everyone comes and goes, right? Yeah. And like it's all connected, yeah.
It's more like the bar at Cheers.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That. Like where everyone just goes there and like so just goes and hangs out. Like whether you're buying stuff or not, they just go and hang out. But like because I went like social media dark for like 2 years because like I can't deal with this shit. But like I recently got back on like a moron.
You're making up for lost time, dude.
Yeah, because I'm just like, dude, this is all bullshit. What are you fucking
crazy?
Because I'm like, what are you idiots going? I'm like, what are you idiots posting about? Like, this is nonsense. So, anyways, but like, I found like just today, I don't know how closely you've been following drifting, but I haven't per se. But the craziest shit is like through Touge Factory, right? Like, out comes like. Club FR, not Club FR doesn't come out from Touge Factory, right? But it kind of helps because like Club FR wouldn't survive without Touge Factory, right?
No, and I would say, I don't know to what extent, but at some point they were very closely intertwined with helping each other. I mean, we put on drift events, people need parts and things for that. The local shop is Touge Factory. And so without Touge Factory and Dave doing what he did and getting what he got, like you couldn't do the drift event. So they kind of went hand in hand for a while, especially I feel like in those early stages where you had to go to a drift event and then you went to Touge Factory to buy something you broke or get ready. And then it was just like back and forth. Right. And then as Dave's business expanded rather quickly, he obviously started selling to other parts of the country where it didn't really matter as much, but there was definitely a time frame for a couple years where I don't want to say Touge Factory wouldn't have existed without Club FR, because that's not true. But Club FR, I don't think
they were like a symbiotic relationship where they needed
like,
each other to grow.
They relied on each other.
Club FR would have definitely been much slower in taking off if Touge Factory hadn't been around. I think Dave would have been fine without us, but vice versa probably wouldn't have happened. Or I actually think like we would have had trouble filling events and doing all that if people just couldn't get their hands on parts, right? So
and then so I thought about that, right? And then through TF, right, like I met all the guys, and like Bruce, right? I got Bruce the job there, who got Tim the job there, and how we met AJ, and that's how Risky Devil ends up getting started, right? And then the crazy thing about Risky Devil is like I'm here at Ford at the Mustang plant, just doing my job, going about my business, wearing my TF shirt, right? Because it's like a hot summer day, and it's this free T-shirt from Mike. And the guy's like stops me, he's like, "Hey, cool T-shirt." Like I was like, "Oh, thanks. Like, do you know about like Touge Factory?" He's like, "Yeah, like I'm like into drifting or whatever." And like I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like I used to work there." He's like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then we got kind of shot the shit, and he's like, "Holy shit! Like you started like Risky Devil?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but like it's not a big deal. It was kind of like a meme before memes, right? We were just having fun with it." But like now it's like a big deal because apparently like I was talking to, who was it, Jimmy from Houston, JY World or whatever.
Yeah.
So like I got to DMing him because Flacco told me like he like was like super influenced by what happened in Chicago. So I was like, "Oh, cool." And like I reached out to him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, like all these events are really because of like we're trying to follow what Chicago did." I was like, "Really? Like we were just fucking goofing around, man." Like I don't know what you're talking about. And then like today, like Palmer from Animal Style, he had Jason DM me to help him try to find like a job in the OEM industry because he's getting an ME degree. So I'm like, I don't know this guy, but I'm like, he's got 13,000 followers. Like, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
But so it's just like weird, like the stuff that comes out from just like hanging out with your friends and you just doing random shit, man.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, I mean, the idea behind starting Club FR at the time for me was a very selfish pursuit. It was all I wanted to do was be able to drift legally and not have to worry about cops and stuff, right? If I had been in a position financially to just go rent a track myself and drive all day, like fuck, I would have done that all day long, right? But obviously not possible. But so that's really all I wanted to do was drive. But but born out of that was Club FR, and then just all the things that we were able to do. And I think, I mean, it's cool to hear that people kind of looked at, or maybe still look at what we did and kind of emulate it. But it's like you said, we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. We were just doing what we loved. And I think we're just super lucky that we've got a lot of cool people and like good people in the area. I don't think, I mean, we've had our fair share of drama, but I think overall, like when you compare it to some other stuff out there, I think we're just like down to earth kind of people. And so I think as you get further along in this drifting world, as it matures, I think there's more and more people who just want to do that and like hang out, have a good time, and leave the drama elsewhere. And so, I don't know what we had different than some other places, but
I do.
It just really worked out,
I've been around and I've asked a lot of people like what was different, and really one, it's Touge Factory and TF Dave, whether people know it or not, is secretly the godfather of U.S. drifting, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
And I think most of the people in Chicago would agree, at least in terms of style.
Oh,
but so
we
had TF Dave, right? So that's huge right there. And then two is like Chicago, like the geography, because no matter what part of this suburbs you're from, you're gonna meet in the city. So there's like a central meeting spot that's easy to get to, versus like other places like LA was like a big sprawl and like there's a bigger community. So I think it's a combination of geography. Also landscape, because like the Midwest is super flat, so we can have super low cars, even though we have fucking terrible roads.
Yeah.
Well, also I feel like because it's so flat and like straight, You guys have to be creative to have fun going around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah.
Because like for me, I love driving in the mountains, like just winding roads. But I miss that most being back in Chicago. And I feel like at the end of the day, I'll try to find like corners where I could push it just a little further, you know, even just locally, because you just gotta become creative, you know?
Oh, also the backdrop for the photos, right? For street drifting and stuff.
Yeah. No, and I think, you know, I mean, it's been said before, but I think the fact that we have a down season as well also definitely, it helps people save up money so that they can fix their car up, they can make it look good, they can research what they want to do, they can, they can kind of plan out what they want to do. Whereas I think, you know, if you're in an area where you can drift all year round, I mean, you probably don't care. You're just gonna like get out there and keep driving it, right? So I mean, it could be part of it, but you know, I do think, that like you said, that the fact that Dave was bringing in parts and had his own style, and you know, it really like kind of set a path of what those who were building cars in the Midwest kind of looked at. And it not only was it easy to get to, but it was like, oh, this is really cool, and there's other cars that are cool. So
Dave made the Team Orange replica for me, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
No one bought any, so I bought them all.
Yeah, exactly, right? So yeah, and I mean, the first time I met Dave was he came over to our friend Tim, and Phil kind of alluded to Tim Holly on his episode, where, you know, we all met at Tim's dad's shop when we first got everyone together to talk about Club FR. But Tim had done an SR swap, but this was before anyone even really knew how to do one. And Dave came over to his garage and was like wiring it up like a master. And like, he didn't even have a shop at that point. He was just like driving around Chicagoland and like helping people with their SR swaps and like with wiring and stuff like that. And it's just like, but he's been so integral in doing that and like working on cars and all this kind of stuff that, you know, it really helped push along the culture in the area. So again, I don't think Club FR would be, you know, where it is today, or it wouldn't have progressed as quickly as it did without him and his team and his vision of that shop and kind of pushing things forward. So
yeah, for sure. Like I think people don't realize, like, drifting kind of owes TF Dave a debt of gratitude.
Oh, I think
in my opinion,
for sure, definitely. I mean, and you know, I think, I mean, like so many things in Chicago too. I mean, we've got Dave we're talking about here, TF Dave, like really helped push things forward, and then we had a lot of help from the West Coast guys, and you know,
like Benson came out, right?
Yeah, with Benson, kind of his forum at the time was a really big meeting point with a lot of us, as weird as it was. That a West Coast forum was kind of where a bunch of Midwest people first connected. I think that's the first time I ever connected with like Eric Wortman. But like, you know, even, you know, when we were trying to get serious and make Club FR an actual company, you know, leaning on Naoki and Moto and, you know, that team from Club 4AG, who were running the Drift Day events out there, and ultimately partnering with them. Because for a time, we were actually like a subsidiary of Drift Day Club FR.
Yeah.
And so it's just like you lean on so many people to get stuff done, but you look back on it, I mean, all the pieces and the timing were really in the right spot. You know, I mean, before, but like before I did any of that, I was really involved because of my parents, you know, in the Miata community, and I was doing a lot of autocrossing. And then, so I learned like what a certificate of insurance is, like, how do you get that? Like, what do you do with this? How do you staff? How do you do this kind of stuff? And so it all was this nice culmination of things and timing that was like, when we were able to run our first couple of events, it wasn't the first time that I had run a driver's meeting or, you know, set up a course or dealt with cones and staffing and radios and all of that, which was great. And then, you know, the perfect balance was Phil, because I mean, I'm not the best talker. I'm a little bit shy, and we all know Phil has his way with words. He's just like
he's a maestro.
He's a genius, right? Like on the fly, he can just, I mean, he says things you're like, you studied that overnight. You had to have studied that.
He'll sell like what is it?
Yeah.
He'll sell ice to an Eskimo or whatever.
Yeah. But he just spits it out like, on the fly. And so a perfect kind of balance of, him being kind of the voice a little bit more than I am. And it was just a really
provide the structure.
Perfect. Yeah, it was really a perfect balance that really helped kind of, push things along there as well. And,
yeah, and then Simba Simba.
But I mean, but that's a good point, because Simba is like immensely connected in like forums and I don't know, Silvia and like Midwest 240SX forum or something, and like just all over the place, like I think the forum we first all connected on, it was a little bit Benson's forum. Then I think you might remember it's called like MWIR. It was like Midwest Import Racing.
Yeah.
It was like some random forum but like he was connected on the forums, so he'd be going out to all the forums like, hey, we're gonna have an event. Why don't you come to the event? Do the event. Where it's just like, so that we all had this little kind of important piece that we brought to the table that really just pushed it along. And but there are so many people in the beginning that really were there to really get the word out. I mean, I'd be so bad if I tried to name everyone, because I'm probably sure I'd leave someone out. But I mean, you have the Grip Gambler guys, with Crab and Jesse, and Simba. I mean, those are the original Grip Gamblers, and then Eric came in with that. And so that was a great crew. And then you had the Minnesota guys who were driving down for a while, which was another cool, with Keith and Ryan and like all these guys. Yeah, and those were like the most diehard guys in my opinion, because I mean, they would drive, what is that, like
8 hours,
something like that, to drive at like Norway, like kart course or something.
To Norway?
Yeah, which
that's got to be like 12, right?
I don't know. It was like super far, but that's how dedicated everyone was. But it boosted, our attendance at the events, met new people, and it was really cool how everyone just kind of came together in the Midwest. And
for sure,
it was the only place to go, really, at the time.
Yeah, because we're talking what, 2005, 6, 7?
Yeah, I'd say 3, 4, 5 maybe.
Oh, 3, 4, 5.
Like
okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like super early. Simba.
Yeah.
So guys, should we drink some?
I was gonna say, like, now that you brought up the Miata, it was a perfect segue for the Miata.
Yeah.
So last time I let Simba lead, but this time I think I'm gonna lead.
All right.
I put out a poll out today on Instagram to see what car you're most known for.
Yeah.
And by far, it's the Miata, right? It seems obvious, even though that's the car I think you've owned not the least, but like that's the like so far ago, and you've gone through like that's the one you owned like the longest time ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But the reason why, so if you see, like I picked out Smoke Wagon, this Desert Jewel Reserve, aged 10 years, right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The reason I got
is that what we're starting with?
Yeah, let's start with this. And the reason why I'm picking this is because Smoke Wagon, it's bourbon, so it's the stuff inside the barrel is from Indiana. It's from a distiller called MGP.
Okay.
But it actually gets aged out in Nevada, outside Vegas. So because of the Miata, I was thinking Laughlin, right? So I picked this one. So if you wanna talk about the story about how you're actually a professional race car driver, licensed in Formula D. So you're a pro, and then you managed to back into a pole with the
With what? With what?
IS or whatever you did that one day.
With what?
With the IS.
Oh, that.
With the IS. Yeah. So we'll get to that story at some point, but let's start with the Miata and like how like you ended up first getting it.
Yeah. I mean, so like I spoke about before, I mean, when I turned 16, I was super into cars. Obviously, I think that's kind of a no-brainer now. But my parents picked up a 10th anniversary Miata, 99 MD Miata, and that's kind of what I would hop into here and there after I got my license, which was great. Perfect learner's car, honestly. But and actually before that, my dad had a 2.5 RS GC, which is what I learned to drive stick on, which is always fun. But and so Yeah, so they got into the Midwest, or no, what is it? Yeah, no, the Windy City Miata Club, doing autocrosses, right? And so, after I got my license, we would go as a family to autocrosses like once a
So cool.
month. Yeah, and it was kind of like twofold. I mean, we were into cars, and so it was fun, but my dad also wanted to make sure that I could learn car control too.
To be safe.
And to this day, I mean, I can count like how many times that I've probably avoided disaster because of being able to, have ingrained in me car control.
That means you're a lazy driver. You're not paying attention.
Yeah. But like even with my girls, like, if I can, when they get old enough, like I'm gonna have them do autocross, whether they like it or not, because
Do they have
there's
it
a
in
lot.
Hawaii?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, SCCA is out here. And so, but anyway, I got into doing autocross, and then, didn't get a car when I was 16, and at the time I had my heart set on an FD, and I was just like, I need an FD. There's no questions. This is what I need to get. And I mean, thankfully, my dad was like, I don't think that's the right first car. Like, not the way to go. And so,
Smart.
there was a weird time frame where in there too, I was like really into Honda, because those were the days where I would be like, when Sport Compact Car was like this thick, that magazine, and was like super technical. Like, I still think this day one of the best magazines for that period. Like, I learned so much about cars from Sport Compact Car.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And so, so I wanted a Del Sol for a little while, and then thankfully, like I was about to sign the paper. My dad's like, "Do you really want this?" And I was like,
I mean, the rear window goes down.
Yeah.
Are you using the mid-engine swap, right? The mid-engine swap?
Yeah, and that's yeah. And so, because again, I was always looking at Option 2 magazines, and I think I fell in love with it. Do you guys remember the Top Fuel Del Sol that was mid-engine?
Yeah.
At like gold RGs, like I don't even remember what they, like a B16 in the trunk or something.
I'm gonna try to pull up an image, and I'll put it in the show or like an Instagram.
It was Top Fuel made one. I think it was Top Fuel. It was white with gold RGs, like mid-engine. I was like, I'm totally gonna do this, which is so unrealistic. Like, there's no way I would have been able to mid-engine swap that car. But so anyway, I kept going to the autocrosses and stuff, and then on my 17th birthday, I woke up and went in the garage, and there's a black 99 MB Miata sitting with a bow on top of it. And I can find, I might have sent you the picture, but there's a picture of me standing in front of it, and I am unhappy as fuck. Like I wanted an FDRX7, and I get, and it's like a bone stock base 99 MB, like steel wheels, like no aero kit, because there's those aero kit pieces that they sell, like nothing. And I'm an ungrateful kid. I'm just saying, like, I don't want this. Like, I wanted an FD.
As a parent now, I could just be like, "You ungrateful bastard."
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I mean, it was a great thing. It was like, here's your birthday present. By the way, you're paying for half, and so we ended up paying half. It wasn't like completely gifted to me, which also sucked, because I'm like, wait, I'm getting a car I don't want, and I have to pay for it. Like, what is this? But it was. Always hindsight 2020, it was the best thing that could have happened. It taught me financial responsibility. It taught me like what paying for insurance is like, and what paying for gas is like, and then evolved into what it became, and what a lot of people know the Miata as, and me as like the Miata guy, and
Miata God.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. But
name someone more iconic. Yeah, exactly. I'll say it for you. Just be modest. It's okay.
No, I think there are a lot of great Miatas out there. I mean, there were a lot of guys that we were connected with at the time that really pushed the envelope. I mean, from a style perspective, I would like to say that I was probably pushing the envelope in the style perspective, which is crazy because I didn't do too much. But then you had people who on a performance and driving level were pushing it further with, like, Chelsea Denofa, who a lot of people know from Formula D as an M3 driver. He started in a Miata and really pushed the envelope with taking a Miata into the professional, drifting realm. And you have Jeff Abbott, who was another, great guy that was connected with, same thing, pushed an MB into FD. So, I mean, there were a lot of people who were pushing the platform, but for a time frame, I will take some credit and think I did push it a little bit further than some people
For the time
thought.
when like the internet was understanding what drifting really was.
Yeah,
Right. So you like put that
Yeah.
seed there, and then the others took it farther.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So cheers. Cheers.
Wait, what year did you win at Formula D?
That was 07.
The 07 Formula D champion or Pro-Am champion.
Pro-Am in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Cheers.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, by the way,
it's got a quick burn at the beginning, but then it's nice and smooth. I like that.
This is discontinued. They no longer have any more of these. So
interesting.
When this bottle is gone, or when all these bottles are gone, they're all gone.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I like
Smoke
Wagon. Smoke Wagon's good.
Smoke Wagon is good. They have a brand called Uncut Unfiltered. It's got a gold label. That's available at like Binny's or like whatever liquor stores, wherever states they distribute to. That stuff's pretty good. It's like $70 a bottle.
I actually just picked up a new one for 2021.
Nice.
At Binny's.
Yeah, I haven't been buying a lot of whiskey. I don't drink a ton.
Yeah, neither do I.
Like a bottle for me lasts like 6 months usually.
Yeah, same here.
And so all I've been doing now, I know we all know what the prices of aged whiskey are, but you can still find decent like 12-year aged bottles here and there. And it's like at a point where if I pay $200 to $300 for this bottle, it's gonna last me 6 months. If I were to go to a bar and have a drink like a double of that, it's gonna cost me how much? So like in my mind, it's like this is cheap, right?
It's justified.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because I don't leave the house anymore.
Yeah, right. But it's like I'll pay $300 for this bottle of 12 like Hakushu or something like that. I'll just sip it for 6 months and enjoy it, So
wait, Hakushu 12 goes for $300?
I think it depends. I think there's a little bit more stock recently. I think their most recent bottle that I bought was probably like $190. I think I've paid like $230 before.
So things in all imports in Hawaii are automatically more expensive because it has to go to the mainland first by law. It's ridiculous.
Wait,
so even though it comes from Japan, it goes to the mainland to go to Hawaii, which is why it'll always be more expensive.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. But this is good though. Yeah. I actually like this.
But see, this is domestic, so you can get this for like a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Is there a reasonable price in whiskey anymore? I don't know if just
Smoke Wagon Uncut is like $70.
Yeah. I think so.
I mean, if you come across it, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
You just have to just be patient.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see a big change though. I don't know if you've read it recently, but I forget the name of the organization in Japan, but they're pushing through a change in what is actually called Japanese whiskey. Yeah. I don't know. Have you read about that?
I did. I think it's to help like with the supply issue, right?
Yeah, because I mean, right now, if you buy Japanese whiskey, like it just has to be bottled in Japan. Like everything can come from somewhere else. If they send it all to Japan, they bottle it in Japan and sell it, they can say it's Japanese whiskey, which we all know you say it's Japanese whiskey and you're going to get a premium of $20, $50, like whatever. And then obviously then
cheap shit.
Yeah. And then it like dilutes what real Japanese whiskey is, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that they said it's getting put through now that to be sold as a Japanese whiskey, it has to have been aged in Japan for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so so I think it will, unfortunately, will push out some of those guys who have probably been like riding that train.
Guys,
yeah, which is unfortunate because it's a business move. I get it, but at the same time, it's going to make those who actually are putting in the hard work and doing it the right way in Japan. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's going to make the prices go even higher for real Japanese whiskey. So it's like it's a catch-22.
Yeah, but you'll see the separation now, right? Between like you'll know like what is actual good Japanese whiskey and what's bad Japanese whiskey. Because right now it's like a crapshoot almost.
So So what you're saying is that if you see like Yamazaki 12 or Hakushu 12 or like Nika, some of the good stuff, just buy it is what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's weird. Like this article I sent to you guys, they were saying there was a couple of things in there that like I didn't even realize were not real, like not real Japanese whiskey.
Yeah. Some of them are crap.
Yeah, like some of the stuff that I get and do enjoy, like Nika coffee grain. I don't know if you guys have
so
Nika,
good.
but I think it was on the list. Like, it's not technically under this new rule, it wouldn't be considered. It wouldn't be considered a Japanese whiskey. And so there's like this time frame now too, where they're saying obviously you can't change it one day, but I think anyone who's
We're gonna
bottled,
give you the window, right? The 3 years starts from now.
yeah, I think it's
Get
to
your
like the
stock
end
in.
of it's the end of 24 or something that you can legally sell it as Japanese whiskey. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what it does to the market.
Yeah.
But to your point, yeah, I would say in a weird way, even though it's crazy high pricing now, you should still probably buy something and sit on it if you really want it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's anyway. So back to the Miata, I think. So that's how I got the Miata, and then it evolved from autocross build to then I fell into drifting, and it just became obviously a platform that everyone was like, you can't use that, but it's all I had.
Yeah.
It's all I had, and it was, I mean, it's to
Just
this day. Yeah.
I was gonna say, just for the listener, like the time frame in the year was like what, 2005, 2000, or earlier, right? For you.
For what?
For when you started drifting the Miata.
Yeah, I mean, I probably started drifting the Miata because I got the car in 2000, January of 2000. And I want to say by the end of 2001-ish, I had been kicked out of the autocrosses because I was trying to drift.
Because you're not supposed to get the rear end out, right?
And there was a time frame when it was like kind of cool, and they're like, that's cool, have fun, but then at some point, someone got their panties in a bunch and kind of shut it all down. And then that's what pushed us to start Club FR and do it legally. But yeah, I mean, that was probably 2001-ish. I think.
So then I think it's easy to forget in 2021 that drifting a Miata is an obvious choice. But in 2001, it was not, right? Like drifting was barely known. And even then it was like 240 SXs with KAs, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I just want to remember to paint that landscape. Like it was a very different time.
K24s.
Yeah, K24s.
Yeah. And there weren't many. I wouldn't say I'm the only one. I mean, I had a forum at the time that I had Roadster Drift with your website and a forum that had its own kind of really kind of cool tight knit crew. There were a couple of us, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely a hard platform to push forward and kind of be accepted, which was fun. That was part of the fun, right? I mean, being able to do what I did in that car, and keep up with some other people in the more traditional drift platforms was really fun. And I would say to this day, I mean, we might get to it in a bit, what else I've driven over the years, but to this day, I think drifting that car is the one car that I just felt completely in tune with. Like,
that's
it's just,
that's
I mean,
funny.
maybe it's because I started driving with it or whatever, or it's because it's a Miata and the Miata is always the answer, but just, I could do anything with that car, put it on a dime whenever I wanted to, and I just didn't have to think twice about it. So
it's funny because you're a big guy. So I remember when before you got the hardtop, seeing you drive was like watching Luigi in Mario Kart.
Yeah, before I had the seat rail torn apart and I just hard mounted it to the bottom of the floor pan. Yeah, I definitely.
I'm pretty sure your helmet was like over the cage.
Totally was. Yeah, I mean, we mounted the seat, the bucket to the floor, and I usually at an event I would take out the bottom cushion too to save that. So I'd just be sitting on the fiberglass.
Wartman did that too to get an S15.
Yeah. So
that's tall people problems.
But I mean, these are the days, right, where like the craziest part that I ever bought for my car was this. I found this obscure company in Japan that doesn't exist anymore, that they made drift tie rods for the Miata, and it was like, I was the only person in the entire United States that had this. And I had to have my girlfriend at the time ask her dad, who went on a business trip to Japan, to like order it and bring it back. And it was like crazy. And people were like, they make those? I'm like, yeah, but it was just this cool like culmination of, I had been learning the language. I was picking up the magazines and you're just flipping through. You're like, holy shit, like this company makes this part? Cool. And then I had the means to get it because there's a normal, like, what do you do if you don't know Japanese? You don't have Japanese friends, like none of that. So it was just, again, another time where it all kind of clicked. And then there's just a number of parts on that car that as I was building, like were very rare and kind of really cool parts that helped it progress as a car. But yeah, I mean, it went through like autocross build phase into like hardcore drift phase. yeah, ultimately when I went to Japan for the first time for school, got into car stuff there, met a lot of people, kind of changed my mindset on what a car build would be and all this kind of stuff. I came back, I completely gutted it and like just turned it into a true race car. And then that's when I got into the, you know, competition piece that we did at Club FR for a while. The competitions that
those
led
were
up
fun,
to getting
man.
to Laughlin.
I remember like we were like, because like the competitions are like, oh, you guys are getting so close in the tandem, but when you look at the videos now, it's like this. It's like so bad. But we're like, oh, they're so close.
Yeah, we're really far. But I mean, but it's so cool too because like you can still find those videos too. I mean, you know, T2 Tim like documented all of that.
That's
you know,
I think
just
also
really
what helped like Chicago grow, right? It's just because it was documented.
Yeah. So. And I mean, it's unfortunate the website doesn't exist anymore. But you know, Keith, we all know him as Beef from Minnesota. I mean, he documented from like day one. You know, he has probably thousands of photos of all the drift days. And yeah, I mean, that really helped push it along too at that time in the internet where people around the country could see what we were doing with those photos, which was really cool. But yeah, so I mean, that's the quick Miata history. But yeah, it ultimately culminated with that win at the Pro-Am in Laughlin that year, which again, like so many things, was a lot of luck too. I mean, I drove against some really great guys that year. Pulled off some crazy wins, you know, in tandem battles. You know, Mickey from Southern California. Him and I ran together, and I spun technically, but he spun too. And just the way it looks on video is like it made it look like I spun because of him, but in reality, I had already spun. But just the way the timing worked, it's like it looked like he spun or I spun because of him. So I advanced. It's like, you know, sport is always just so much luck, right?
Yeah.
But so it culminated with that, getting the license to do Formula D the next year, and then I had some decisions to make because that's when I was graduating college. And then, you know, what did I want to do? And I had already done Formula D once. So if you back up, so that was 2007, and 2005 was when Formula D first came to Chicago. And I did enter at that time because it was a time when like pretty much anyone could enter if you just paid, right? And so that was at Soldier Field. And then, you know, I ran into the wall during qualifying and just...
I'm going to post that picture too because it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. I still blame that on Benson, by the way.
Do you want to unpack on this?
That's another story.
We'll save it for when I have Benson on.
Yeah, there you go. But you know, I mean, you know, and I had done some of the competition stuff because then I guess now I'm going backwards too. You know, before that, at the early stages of Chicago, like we had RSR Drift Festival come out, and I think Simba touched on this a little bit. You know, and you know that was an amazing event. I mean, the judges were like Orido, Alex Pfeiffer. There was another guy from Japan who came who had won an RSR competition in Japan. So part of his winnings was to like come to the States. And so it was like a really cool event. And for us in Chicago, it was massive because you had Benson was there, Tanguchi was there, Alex Pfeiffer was there, like Calvin Wong was there, like all the big FD names at the time were there.
And so I'm still mad that I didn't go because I couldn't afford the $10 to get in the gate because I was in high school.
Yeah. But that was a big deal for us in Chicago, right? I mean, it was the first big ticket event. And, you know, the way things worked out, I ended up winning that event, which was just like a dream come true at the time. But it was just, so the point being, like I had done some of the competition stuff and it was cool, but I just want to drive. And, you know, anyone who can tell you from these competitions, like you don't drive that much at these, like you sit in a line, you get your practice runs, and then you do this. And, you know, unless you're getting to the finals, like you didn't really drive too much. And I'm like, I just want to freaking drive. And at that time in 2008 was like really kind of, I feel like really a key turning point for Formula D where like you needed full backing, you needed like a crazy budget, you needed all these things to do these. And I remember, man, it was a hard decision that when I was deciding to leave Touge Factory and move to Japan, TF Dave made it really hard for me because I had just won that event. And he's like, if you stay, I will fund your 2009 Formula D, you know, year. And I was just like, holy shit, that's crazy. You know, and I mean, and that would have been amazing too. But I just, in my heart, I knew I needed to get to Japan. I needed to do that and kind of tick off that box in my life list of things I want to do.
Yeah.
But that, I mean,
TF Dave for that offer.
Oh, I mean, I remember that to this day. And I mean, he didn't push too hard because I think he knew I already had my mind made up. I think he just needed to know he tried his best, right? He didn't want to. He's a competitive guy. He didn't want to just give up,
Sure.
But
it helps him too, right?
Oh yeah, he was like, if you petition a full year, we'll be sponsored by us, and we'll do this and that. Like, it would definitely have helped him too, right? But yeah, not that I would have done great or anything. I mean, I probably wouldn't have done that great, but it was just, it was a good gesture.
Yeah, and that was like before like the horsepower got like real crazy, so you could still compete, right? Be competitive. But I remember that because like I was still working at TF, and like that was like the year before I decided to go back to school, right? And then I was like, dude, Rob, like you could be like a pro Formula D driver. Like, what are you doing going to Japan at the time? It's just like in the back of my head. But like in retrospect now as an adult, like I completely get it.
Yeah, I mean
it's very
forward thinking. Decision.
Yeah, it's very forward thinking.
Well, it was just selfish. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of things that have evolved into other great things for me have just been from a selfish endeavor. But I watched all these option videos and magazines and Drift Tengoku here and all these kinds of things, and I was like, I just want to drive at these places. That's all I want to do, And I was able to,
just want to drive, no work.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
But those option videos and like best motoring videos, those places seem mythical even. When you're watching those, it's like mountains of whatever, and
so far,
just going so hard.
Yeah, and it's just I'm very fortunate that I've been able to go to these places too, because it's mythical. I mean, and for a lot of people, like they may never get a chance to go in person, but it'll always be this place that's just held up here on this pedestal. Yeah. But I was just like, I have to figure out a way to get there, and all of my circumstances allowed me to do it, which I'm very fortunate. But I think it's funny. It's funny when I'm thinking about the first time I went to Ebisu. It was when I was, I didn't drive. We just went to watch the Matsuri, which is 4 times a year. Okay, 3 times a year. It's like a 72-hour, 24/7 drift fest. All of the courses are open.
There's 4 of them, by the way, to clarify.
Yeah, there's 4 main courses, then there's like the Touge course, and there's like school course, and like there's like, but it's crazy. So for 3 days, it's just nonstop, 24/7, And so we drove from Kyoto up there, which is like an 11-hour drive, just to go watch. And the reason I mentioned the drive, though, what's crazy is you can drive through Tokyo, and what really actually got me into option videos wasn't drifting. It was the Wangan racing that they did. And like, to me, that was the ultimate badass. Like, I remember the first option video that I bought, which was a bootleg from somewhere. I want to say it was like volume 88. And volume 88 is the one, you can probably find it on YouTube now, but it's this famous moniker guy. His name's Wangan Chibo-kun, and he's just driving an R33 GTR like 200 miles an hour over a bridge, and like meeting up with, I don't know, Aryame Miya, who like, I don't know, the Scoot guy with his 4-rotor FD like that he had just built, and like just like doing crazy shit. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Says the guy who walks in the garage and has an NA Miata. Like, I'm gonna go, I got 180 horsepower. I'm gonna go down Elgin O'Hare as fast as I can.
That's why I played to my strengths. That's why when I got the Subaru, I was like, shit, man. Like, it's all-wheel drive. I like rally, and I've always loved Subarus, but it's all-wheel drive, so I can't drift. Yeah. But secretly, in the back of my head, I'm like, Kamakubo's like my hero, right? He owns the Ebisu. Yeah. Plus, he's got a rear-wheel drive Subaru. Yeah. But
that's why it's just like, you got to play to your strengths, right?
So that's why, like, when we went out for cruising, I'm like, I'll just wait for the highway runs.
But that's the reason why I turbocharged the Miata. It wasn't because of drifting. It was because I wanted to go fast on the highway, right? And I'm on the Miata forums, like, researching how to change out my final drive to, just go as fast as possible. And it was just like, at one point I was like, the hell am I doing? Like, it's a freaking Miata, right? But I mean, to this day, I think those guys who ran those, Tokyo streets, not streets, highways,
Yeah.
The Wangan guys.
Yeah.
the Wanga guys are the ultimate badasses to me. Like just balls of steel. And then I realized too very quickly, deepest pockets you could possibly have.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so, but that's what got me into video option. And then what, as it so happens, that same video had an Ebisu round on it, or like something with Ebisu D1, and then was another kind of segue because I watched that video like 30 million times, right?
Yeah.
And so then to have actually gotten to Ebisu, and then over the next few years, I drove it twice myself. It was just like, yeah, it was just a really cool like culmination of bringing this this mythical place to life for me. And that's all I wanted to do when I went to Japan, was to see these places. So to have driven there, and to have driven at like Bihoku, and like just a couple other cool places. And there's still more on my list that I didn't get a chance to do, and maybe I will one day. But that's the whole reason why I went to Japan.
That actually brings me
back.
No, that actually brings me back to why I originally brought up when you go to Japan and Rob's Japan travel tips, is because I go to Korea about every 2 years with my family.
Yeah.
And my parents are out there and my grandparents are out there. So what I'm saying is I can go drop off my kid with my parents. You could drop off your kids with your parents, and we can just go back and forth and see Japan and Korea together. Right? Just no kids.
I mean, can. Yeah, we'll wait till the kids are a little bit older.
Yeah.
Right now, I would be axed.
I was also going to say, we're also have to wait until they're in school to wait around their school schedule, because I can't go in April starting next year. So
yeah,
but we'll figure it out one of these years.
Yeah, I mean, what we're going to probably end up doing is during summer, we'll be taking them over to live in Japan for the summer. Because they can enroll in school for free there to keep Japanese language up. And then I will go over with them. I'll stay for 2 weeks and then have to come back. Well, they stay for the rest of the summer, but there'll be a lot of leniency at that point to what I think, can wrap around that trip. Because, I still, even though I lived there for 4 years, somehow, even though it was only like 2 hours for me, I never got to an F1 in Suzuka, which is like the dumbest thing. Like, I don't know why I never did it, I've driven Suzuka Twin, which is kind of my go-to track, which is like 15 minutes down the road. Yeah. Like that was where I went like once a month, but for some reason I never did. So like there's still stuff in Japan, which is still on the list,
I'm gonna pause you right there though. Yeah. Real quick. Let's review this smoke wagon. So like let's what are your thoughts on the nose? I get like cinnamon and spice.
Vanilla?
Yeah, I was gonna say vanilla.
I do get that. Yeah,
that's why I was surprised it kicks for me right at the beginning, and I didn't expect it. And maybe that's why it kicks, because it doesn't smell like it's gonna kick, but it kicks for me at the beginning. Yeah, it mellows really quick and has a nice finish that. Yeah, I really like.
Yeah, it's really smooth. I mean, like the heat is in your mouth, but there's like almost none coming down your throat.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it's a marketing exercise or not, but like the whole notion of desert jewel, right? Yeah. Like the whole like profile of the smell and the taste and the aftertaste, it's very fitting to the concept of desert, I feel like.
Yeah, you're right. And they do a great job marketing it with the guns, or the revolvers and stuff, like playing into that Wild West theme. But I think
I could see myself drinking this in the desert, and there's like a bunch of scorpions walking around, and you're
just like a campfire. Yeah, for sure. But I was gonna say, like, the whole shtick is like, because it's aged out in the desert and there's like extreme temperature swings. I think it helps age it faster because of the temperature variation.
Cool. That's actually really nice.
Yeah. But
I like it. If I have to go out on a limb right now and we're gonna
grade this one on the
I
Asian
give this
scale.
Out of Asian, I don't know. You'd have to tell me about that.
Well, on your wife's scale.
Oh, on my wife's? Well,
yeah. Is she stricter than you?
What do you mean, stricter than me?
Yeah, like in terms of school. Like, I guess in terms of like discipline. Is she the disciplinarian or are you?
We take turns.
Okay.
Take turns.
I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. We take turns because we're bilingual at home, so we try to like even out the the yellings, some in Japanese, some in English.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I
we gotta take turns. Yeah.
I would
That's
laugh.
like chaos.
I would laugh though if you were the guy yelling in Japanese and your wife was the one yelling in English.
No.
Just exclusively.
I mean, I do my fair share in Japanese, but yeah, that'd be pretty hilarious.
Just so like when you're out in
if she-
public, when people are just like, "What is going on here?"
Oh, I do that all the time at the park. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like yelling something in Japanese, and people are like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck?" Yeah, but in Hawaii, it's there's a pretty big Japanese community, so it's a little bit more commonplace.
Dude, I'll yell in Korean, and people are like, "Why are you yelling at that white kid?" Swear to God, man. Like I remember one time, like, "Is that your kid?" I was like, "Damn, white lady, mind your own business."
Yeah.
Like, this is not your kid.
I definitely still to this day. I mean, my girls are pretty hoppa looking, and so, you know those times when you're like trying to leave somewhere and they're kicking and screaming and they're calling for mama.
Yeah.
And I still get looks where people are like, "Is that his kid? Is he stealing a child right now?"
I know, man. But I feel like it's only because we're the dads, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's the mom, it's not
no problem.
the same situation.
Yeah.
But it's just like
I'm having that dad walk, like holding a kid in my hand, and I look
get over here. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, "Holy shit, is someone getting kidnapped right now?"
Yeah.
I'm sure historically most kidnappers were males. I feel like.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have zero basis on that, but it just feels like it.
I also feel like that is true. Yeah, so that's why it's understandable, but it's also annoying. Like, damn, lady, like back up. This is my kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your
I would say like if are we going on a scale of 10 maybe to a 5?
8F.
8F.
School grade.
8F. School grades.
Oh. Is that what it is? Oh, I'm giving this a B+, man.
B+?
Yeah.
Nice.
I enjoy this. Like I could buy this and enjoy it, even though you're telling me I can't anymore.
No, you can't.
But,
well, I mean, I think you can, but it's gonna be from some collector for some ungodly.
By the way,
remaining in your glass.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what. By the way, was I supposed to drink the whole thing? Because
whatever you want, man.
Whatever you
I'm gonna get fucked up.
That's all good, dude. I mean, it's 3 ounces, so it's 3 pours, right? Or 6 ounces. Yeah. It's 6 ounces, 3 pours.
All good.
I was gonna say because it's in Hawaii, I don't know what you got going on for the rest of the day, so you don't have to drink it all.
I'm going to the park after this and yelling at my kids. So
having fun and shit. I gotta go back to sleep and then get up for work at my fucking computer at like 7 a.m. again. Oh shit.
But no. So what are we pouring next?
I have to go grab it off my shelf. It's a good point. We can just take a pause.
Okay. All right.
So how are you feeling, Rob? Are you in a rush? I don't know how your
good.
time is. Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I didn't bring my laptop's charging cable, so I'm just like, I should be okay. Got 50%.
I mean,
left.
we got all the material that I need, so now it's just really shooting the shit and just reviewing the whiskey and just talking. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Let me just grab that blends. I grabbed Simba's bottle on accident from last week.
Oh, it's okay. Good.
So the next one though is Blanton's. If you want to pour that one out.
Okay.
Is that Blanton's? Yeah.
Blanton's Red?
Yeah, I think so.
I think this is from Japan. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, Blanton's, it's American, but they have a bunch of variations of it that's only available like overseas.
Oh, interesting. Shit, I just poured the whole thing again. It's like hard for me not to do that. It feels like I'm cheating. Oh, man. Yeah, but I think, this is fun. Look at him on his. I hope he doesn't.
Bar stool.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't edit that part out. Like, that's hilarious. You know what would be hilarious if like his wife, that'd be funny too. If his wife comes over and is like the perfect size to just grab it without being on a stool or something.
What are you doing, girl?
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man.
So where are you right now?
I'm in Deerfield, Illinois.
Deerfield. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, I just came up from Atlanta not too.
Do you guys need a pee or get any like a glass of water or anything?
No, I'm okay.
I'm alright too.
All right. So let's move on to
yeah.
Hold on. Let my camera focus real quick.
But yeah, do you guys know that the best motoring videos, they're still making new ones and releasing them on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. I just saw that like last week.
How do they make money?
Yeah, but it's great. I thought it was just in my mind, it was something from the past.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, it's like all like the sport compact car magazines and all those car magazines have died off right here, at least in the U.S.
Yeah.
And
It's them, and I also think I could be totally wrong, but I think hot motoring or hot version.
Hot
Sorry.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, combining best motoring and hot version. But
Yeah.
I think hot version also has been doing some stuff direct
They
to
have.
YouTube. I think so. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And then it's cool because you get into those hot versions where you go through and you remember the awesome ones where like classic battles with like the Feed FD and like REM and Mia FD and just like
The Touge battles.
oh, those are amazing. That Feed
God,
FD, Feed FD was amazing.
Yep.
Oh, what an amazing car.
I still want to get another FD, but I got to finish the FC first.
Yeah, I still need to get a first FD, which is never going to happen. So,
It'll happen, man. No, it'll happen. But yeah,
the way these prices are going. So
our
Let me
prices, I
think.
feel like it's only gonna go up. Like
they
it's not coming
will.
down.
No, but you can get a right-hand drive for cheaper.
yeah, you can.
But you got to learn how to use that fucking e-brake. bro.
cannot.
Why?
Cannot.
Okay, so
Because my brain is fucked up or something.
Wait, you
I just can't.
were driving in Japan for like 3 years.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so I mean, it's a nice segue into what I drove in Japan, I guess. But when I first got to Japan, it took me a little while to get the money and kind of figure out what I want to do. And a friend of mine, he was going to sell his S15. So obviously, like a dream car for me, right? And so I was able to pick that up from him. And it was bone stock spec R. 6-speed. I started working on it, doing some stuff so I could drift, at the mountain and whatnot, but just could never. I mean, like I eventually was able to drive it kind of okay. I mean, there's a video, I think you've probably seen it, Earl, of me driving in the mountain and like driving at the track. And it's not like it was bad, but it just, for me, it was never, I had to always think about the next step, like what I was doing.
yeah, because it's not natural, right? You
Yeah.
don't have enough seat time.
Yeah. I just never could get comfortable.
So I got a solution
and
for
that's,
you.
yeah.
You buy a sim. It's $5,000. You get all the seat time you need, and then
Yeah,
you
sweet.
develop the muscle memory.
Sweet. Yeah, sweet.
And then get
Awesome.
the FD.
Yeah, then get the FD.
Then you buy the FD because you're ready
I
for
mean,
it.
Yeah. But
with the premium, you might as well just pick up a regular FD.
Yeah, but like, yeah. So, but continue. I'm just throwing it out.
So
there.
yeah, no, I mean, it was a really cool time frame, and I did some cool things with that car. And it was to say I've owned and driven, an S15. For me, it was pretty cool.
That's super cool.
But eventually, yeah, I realized, I hadn't go to Japan to get cars that I couldn't get at home. I went to Japan to drive tracks and places that I dreamed about and to do it well, and enjoy myself.
That's super cool.
And I realized I needed left-hand drive. And then as it so happened, some of the friends I made at Touge were close friends with Takatori, who, of D1 and Formula D, his shop was in Kyoto, or the shop he worked at. And so got connected with him. And at the time he had been coming to America to drive in Formula D, and the team he was joining one year was going to have a left-hand drive something. I forget what he was going to do. Oh, it was maybe like a G35 or something like that. Because this is after he finished with Autobox and had that R34 that he positioned for a little while. He was coming back and be driving left-hand drive, and he's like, to your point, like he needed to practice with left-hand drive. And so he had imported a 240 from the States, SR swapped it. Like, I mean, there were a lot of parts on that car. Like it was legit, like, S14 SR, S15 turbo, like, drift knuckles at the time, which were like brand new from Kuroi, RIP. And like, so there's a lot of parts in that car. Like it had an S15 subframe, which for a S13 is kind of like a holy mod. Like if you know what you're doing, you have money, you do that, right? So it was like built properly. And when that kind of finished, I was like, would you sell it? He was like, yeah, I'll sell it for you for sure. So in a weird roundabout way, I ended up being in Japan with a USDM left-hand drive 240. And it is bar none the absolute best decision I ever made, because just hop in and it's like clockwork. I don't have to think about what I'm doing. It just happens. And I just had so much more fun driving that car. And then it was also cool too, because you get a little bit like of interesting looks when you drive around too, right? Like, whoa, like white guy, left-hand drive. Even on a normal road, people are like, whoa, what's going on? But then you drive through the pits at like Meihan or like Ebisu or Bihoku, and people are like, what the hell is going on here, right?
Yeah.
And so it worked out, and like, yeah, the best driving times I had was definitely in that car, just being super, super comfortable and not having to think about how I'm driving, but like just focusing on the drive and trying to progress as a driver, you know, at the different tracks we went to and at the mountain. But yeah, that was good times. So
that's super cool, man.
Yeah.
What
I'm
happened
still
to the car
jealous.
when you
What
came
was
back?
that?
What happened to the car when you came back?
That car I ended up storing at Takatori's shop for a while, and then ended up selling it to one of his customers or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's somewhere. I think it turned into kind of a show car because of its rarity in Japan.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was
I
was
guess
a fun time.
ask because because being a USDM car,
Yeah.
you could have just brought it right back without much
Mhm.
issues.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when I moved from Japan to Hawaii, it's a whole nother interesting story. But I mean, we moved here. I had no job, no car, no apartment, a laughable amount of money in my savings account. Like, it's one of those things you look back and you're like, I don't know what the hell we were thinking and how we made it happen. But
How did you end up in Hawaii?
My wife, who is Japanese, had been back and forth a lot of times, and we had vacation twice while we were dating. And just, I made the mistake one year of bringing her back to Chicago over the holidays, which was great to meet my family, but it also was like,
Cold.
so I would like to introduce you to -2 degrees. You know, would you like to move here? And it was like, nah, no. So this was our compromise, you know. And at the time, I had no real reason to say no. It was a beautiful space, and it was right in the middle of both. Right, it was literally halfway between Japan and Chicago. So it was great in that regard. And you know, you don't have to twist people's arms too much to come visit you in Hawaii, right? So it was
Yeah, that's why I'm coming out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not a bad spot. Now, for a car guy, it's definitely a more challenging space, but I would argue that for me personally, it's probably really good because
it'll blow you out of your buddy.
I mean, we know as car guys, man. I mean, the amount of years that I lived paycheck to paycheck with like, I don't know, $500 in my savings account and maybe like $100 in my checking account, just waiting for the next paycheck so I could, you know, do a entry fee to an event at Meihan and then maybe buy some like 4 or 5 tires and then maybe buy a cup of ramen to get me through the day.
Chipotle, you know, is a splurge.
Yeah, like if my plan in life was to be single and do that for my entire life, I would have been fine. But you know, for me, it wasn't what I wanted to kind of do. And even if I were to be in Chicago right now, I have a feeling like I'd still be probably doing it at a level that is probably not financially responsible.
As in you
because
have an FD.
Yeah.
Well, you can do what like Francisco does, right? You just open up your own shop, or you do what I do, where like I just work for an OEM, right?
Yeah, well, you guys have done a great job in incorporating your passion with your job. I'm not so lucky, and I'm not handy with my hands, and I don't have the mathematical brain that you probably have. I send emails and talk to people and wine and dine as a salesperson, but like, you know, I think it's. I mean, I think all car guys can agree at some level. Like, this is a very deep-rooted sickness that we have.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't. Sickness.
I mean,
Let's be honest.
I haven't done hard drugs or crack or cocaine, but God, I gotta think it's something similar where like no matter as how much you want to turn it away and turn it off, there's just no way to do it, you know. And like it's just, and for me it's good because it's allowed me to focus on building a family, which is amazing for me. But you know, you get it to a point where how do I get back into it in a responsible way? And you know, so now I can responsibly get back into it and stay in line with what was that?
CX-5.
Yeah, because that's an amazing way back into
I'm
car culture.
I'm just saying you can at least make it cool and like not look desperate.
Yeah, but I mean, my sport cross I can make cool too, which you know, it's kind of my middle ground of like it's an IS300 which has had an amazing renewed sense of you know, value these days, which is kind of crazy.
Did yours have a 5-speed?
No, they never came in 5-speed.
Yeah,
so.
but I know like people like AJ do the swap. So
Yeah, and I'd want to at some point.
yeah. You're gonna keep it?
But yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth.
Before we get to that parking lot story, let me just cut you off real quick to talk about the next whiskey, which is Bland's.
Which Bland's I've been drinking, by the way.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's recently gotten like a surge in popularity just because of the shape of the bottle.
I've had it before. Yeah.
Wait, is this regular Bland's?
No. So hold on. I'm gonna get to it. So yeah, like it was like in John Wick, right? So like in the shape is pretty iconic, like the grenade, so people like it. But this is actually Bland's Takara Red, which is Takara is the Japanese company that actually owns the Bland's brand. So they every year they bring in X amount for their own Japanese stock to sell like in Japan.
Yeah.
So 2020, crazy story. In February of 2020, I took a day trip to Japan while I was out in Korea to visit my grandparents. And this is when like COVID was just starting to like get on the map. I think I told you this story, both of you, but for the listener, I took a day trip to Japan just to buy whiskey. This is one of them because this is American bourbon made specifically for the Japanese market, which I brought back to America. So somehow I thought it was somehow fitting with that 240SX.
That's cool. Well, no, thank you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So
that's awesome.
That's that spiel about the Blanton's. So let's just quickly just get into the tasting or the notes.
Yeah. It's smooth, man.
And the nose, it smells like sweet and almost like melon. Like I get like a some melon flavor.
Maybe I have COVID-19, but like I don't smell much. I have no.
No, it's very subtle. It's very subtle. Yeah, well, and on the palate, it's very subtle too.
I feel like the nose and the first initial palate is actually super meek almost. It's like very underplayed.
Yeah.
But there's actually a lot of flavor that actually develops out.
But the flavor is not what I expected. It's like very woody and almost like almost bitter. Yeah. When it smells sweet.
It has,
yeah, like the end note, like what it remains, it is somewhat bitter.
But it is very smooth and it coats like very nicely. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah, I like it. This is good.
Yeah. What's your grade, Rob?
This one. It's a B-.
B-. Cool. Oh, and you didn't give your grades for the last two. Smoke Wagon and this one.
The Smoke Wagon, I would actually give it A-.
A-.
Wow, nice.
But I'm pretty biased
because you're bourbon biased. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm Smoke Wagon biased.
Oh, okay, fine. Either way, you carry a bias. And what about blends?
The blends, I would, if I could put it lower than the Smoke Wagon, but still higher than the B+. If that, so like A-.
So like a 91 versus a 90.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say this is really good. Like I'm actually quite surprised at amount of like flavors and complexity that it has.
So I know people like right now, Bland seems to be like almost like the 240SX of what is drifting for bourbon, where like it's just the go-to.
Yeah. So I actually don't like regular blends.
Yeah, regular blends I don't like at all. Yeah. Not I don't like it all.
This is good though.
That's not a fair statement. I should say the regular American blends that we get.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, it's overrated.
Whiskey.
It's solid, but it's overpriced, and it's like it's not worth paying over the sticker. Because the normal price is $65, but if you go to Kentucky, it used to be 55. It's 65. It's not bad, but if you go to a liquor store in Kentucky, if you go into the wrong liquor store, it's $300. So I was like, no, I'm good. I barely want to pay the $65, you know?
Yeah.
But this stuff, I would gladly pay the $57 I did in Japan.
Yeah.
I would pay up to $100 for this.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, easily.
Man, oh man, dude, you should have come to Japan when we were there, man. Because those were the days, like, when I was teaching during finals week, they were half days, and half days. One of the days we would all go as the English teachers to the distillery and take the tour.
Oh god.
Which is, those days were like, this glass I'm drinking from, like it's Yamazaki, like it was a gift.
Sweet.
it was a gift for taking the tour. But at the end of the tour, they would give you a 20-minute tasting, and this was a time when the 20-minute tasting was all you could drink aged.
What?
Yeah, it was all you could drink aged.
Drink?
Yeah, it
I
was
would get wrecked.
Before the boom, man.
Yeah, it was before the boom. It was all you could drink aged, and then you go back out to the whiskey library where you can order a bunch of stuff. And I paid like $30 for a double of like Hibiki.
I've never heard it pay by time. I would literally die in those 20 minutes.
Oh, trust me, we tried, man.
Line it up. Line it up.
We tried, man.
Yeah.
Because, you know, cool. I mean, and the thing is, we would go every quarter as teachers, and we would walk in, and then, like, the ladies who did the tasting would see us walk in, and I swear to God, they were like, oh,
those fuckers again.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and we would leave there fucked up, but, like,
I know.
You know.
Dude, I'm so mad now that I didn't come to see you.
Yeah.
Because when we were out in Korea, like, that was like 2010, right? So,
it was
we were out to the bars. We were out to the bars. It's like 10 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
Because
we were
half the time, like the subway gets cut off at midnight, right? So I'm like, fuck, we can't go home now because the taxi's twice as much. So let's just stay out till the first subway. It's 6 in the morning, right?
Yeah. Same. Yeah. I mean, when I lived in Japan, where I decided to live was outside of the city, so I was over a mountain in like the middle of nowhere. So yeah, when that train stopped, when that train stopped, I mean, that was like a $200 taxi ride if I wanted to do it. So
I was so poor because I was still in school then, right? Like it's a $40 cab ride. I can't afford it.
Not even.
Yeah, but because we were going from like Itaewon. No, it was we were going from like Gangnam to like Noksapyeong. So we were going from like Gangnam, right, from like Gangnam style, to the other side of the river where the army base is, where we live. But it's literally like less than 10 miles.
Taxi prices back then in Korea was so cheap.
Yeah,
it's still cheap, but like that would have been like $10, not even.
No, it was because it was after midnight. I remember I did it once. It was 40,000 won, which is like $40.
She's got fleeced.
Yeah, because I don't speak the language, right? I'm like, what am I gonna say? Like ajashi, like I know you're ripping me off. What's he gonna say, right?
He'll just look back and it's like, I don't know what you're talking
about. So I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, I can never do this again. I can only stay out drinking. That was my last.
But Earl, do you realize that as we were going out to drink like cheap beer, like cheap soju, Rob was going to the distillery drinking like Hibiki 30s.
Yeah, because I'm a dumb fuck. I should just went, saved the money for a month, visited Rob for a weekend, got fucked up, and then come back.
Hibiki 30.
But again, this is how 20-year-olds think versus 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
But what I really liked about the whiskey library that they had there is you know they had the Yamazaki tasting with different ages, and they had a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
But at the whiskey library, like I could buy a double or whatever of Hibiki 30 for $50 or something, which was like I'll pay that because I'm never going to be able to buy a bottle of Hibiki 30. But they had things from all around the world, which is what's fantastic. Like you could get some crazy age stuff, from around the world on their menu, which was just like it really like it boiled down to me like how serious
whiskey culture is there.
Whiskey culture is in Japan. I mean, I don't want to say just Japan, but like whiskey connoisseurs, like it's just. I mean, we know Japanese in a very broad sense. I think we all agree that Japanese tend to really give themselves to their passion, whether it's drifting or it's whiskey or it's fly fishing. Like they're in it, right?
Deep. I realize in Japan they're very singularly focused on their passion, right? So like they pour like everything into their craft, whatever they choose it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I saw when I was in Japan was like you go to the bookstore and you've got magazines for like anything. You've got Drift Tengoku. You've got a magazine about taking photos of airplanes at the airports. You have like a train magazine. Yeah. You have like a flower photo magazine. You have like there's like something for everyone, and everyone has their niche that they're into.
It was the internet before the internet.
Yeah. But it's just like people give themselves fully to whatever their passion is, which is kind of cool, which is really, really nice. And I think, it's an interesting segue into like what I was thinking I wanted to say about Japan car culture that really impressed itself upon me. And I think the biggest thing that was just crazy to me when I was there is there are so many people in Japan that you don't even know about and are the best drivers you have ever seen in your life, either driving in a mountain or at the track, and they're not on Facebook, they're not on Instagram, they're not about any of that. They're just there to drive and do the best they can. And like how unimportant all that other stuff is, like it's only the driving, it's only driving to the best of their ability. Yep. And like, you know, case in point, the closest friend I have in Japan, who luckily when I moved there happened to live like 15 minutes from where I was and like 5 minutes from the mountain that we went to go to all the time. His name is Masa. Some of those who visited me in Japan, like Simba and TF Dave and Mike and some other folks, you know, Doraemon Dave, all those guys from Minnesota, like just a lot of them came over and visited me, and I took them to the mountain and met my friend Masa. And I would guarantee you, I'd put money on it to say that the rides they took in his Corolla up and down that mountain are probably to this day some of the craziest times that they've had in a car. Yeah. And the thing is, like, no one knows who this person is. He's not on social media. He doesn't have Facebook. He got an iPhone like last year, like because they couldn't, like there was nothing else to give him. They're like, this is the only thing we have. We don't have flip phones anymore. We don't. My
grandparents got forced into that situation too.
Right. Yeah. It's just like, but what it is, like, there's so many people in Japan that like aren't about what unfortunately car culture seems to be about in the States. And I don't want to say there aren't people like that, but like it's all about how many followers and likes and stuff like that. And it really was like, man, these people, they're only about this one thing, and that's all that matters, right? Yeah. And that really impressed upon me how like that's what's most important if you were truly into car culture, is none of the peripheral, like, you know, I'm just doing this to be, you know, boost my ego, which is really cool. And I also think the thing that I really wish would somehow make its way into not even just drifting culture in the States, but, you know, everyone that I ever met in Japan at the track, it didn't matter if I was sitting next to Takatori, who's a D1 driver, or Ichiyanagi, who's a D1 driver, or, I mean, at Ebisu, I pitted next to Koguchi one year. Like, how fucking crazy is that? Yeah. But he's super down to earth, and he would talk with like the newbie who pitted 3 down from me, and just like talk like normal. Like there was no ego. We're all there enjoying the same thing. And it didn't matter how good or how bad or how many likes or how many followers or any of that. It was like, we're at different levels, but it's irrelevant. We're enjoying the same thing, and let's just join and have that. And that really impressed upon me how we still have a long way to go, I think, in the States of...
I'm glad you brought that up, actually.
Yeah, like just putting what we all are passionate about first and foremost, and everything else last. And it's a hard ask, right?
But hey, like, my camera died, so you can keep talking. Sorry, I'm just gonna swap out my battery.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I think that was one of those two things are what really kind of, you know, when I left Japan really stuck with me, was just how much it didn't matter, like how good or bad you were. Everyone's just enjoying the same thing. And I really hope we can build that into our culture here in the States. And it's an uphill battle, like, for sure. But there's just so many unsung heroes out there, especially in Japan. Like, you know, I've been fortunate to like ride with some amazing drivers in Japan, and basically it makes you think like, I should just stop doing this. Like, I suck. There's no reason for me to do this, you know? And so it's just, it's cool when you just meet people who are really, really good and your idols. Yeah. And like, you know, I mean, case in point, I pitted next to Koguchi at Ebisu one year for Matsuri. And he came over to tell me how cool my car was, the black 240 left-hand drive. Because it was just left-hand. And he's like, this is really cool. And I was just like, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know?
So basically, for people who don't know, Koguchi is the 240, or not 246, I'm sorry, the S13 chassis god. Yeah, the 180SX god, right? Yeah. So So basically, if you're into drifting, like you're gonna know his work. So if you really know that your history, if you're pitted next to him in a 240, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. And so, it's just, and I think stuff like that should just be more commonplace, where we're all just there for the love of it.
Yeah.
But
I feel like the world will be a better place.
Yeah, I agree. That's honestly, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's kind of why, like, I started this podcast. Like, Hohen and I have been kind of talking about it in the background for like maybe the last 9 months, maybe.
Yeah.
The 9 months for 3 episodes, right? Because like, it's really like, do I really want to put this material out there in the world and put effort into this? Because like, I get nothing out of putting out this podcast, but I see what I could gain if I keep putting out this podcast. But really, the purpose for why I do it is to share my journey into the automotive world. That way, if anyone wants to learn to get into drifting, into time attack, into Formula One, or like IndyCar, NASCAR, or even the OEM world, like, you can follow along my journey, and you can find out how to get there through how these interviews of the people who have gotten there, you know?
I think, I think to put a bow kind of around it, I think is what I'd like to see it. It's what you're saying, and it's kind of what I was taking away from Japan, and what I saw there was, I feel like in the States right now, if you are newly trying to get into this car culture, mainly drifting, when I say that, because that's what I'm into, but it's fairly daunting. Like, like there's people now who are held upon really high regard because of the things they've been doing, whether it's, Ilya and Simba and Josh and Chubb and the Proceeds guys with Lay, and like, other teams that are held in this high regard, where like you're going to have new kids who are like, I can't go talk to these people. Like, this is the Koguchi to me. This is the Kumakobo to me. This is the, the first time I met Benson, I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to Benson. It's like, but there, like, it all needs to come down to a level where there is easy entry into this to feed the next level of enthusiasts into it. Because like, I remember I was at Mehan one time, and Hibino was there, and he was helping this kid who had, like, it was his first track day in a Corolla. He was just like talking with him, like telling him about like lines. I'm like, how freaking cool is that? Like, and that's where they're at. Where like, it doesn't matter who you are and who I am. We love the same thing. And that's where, like you're saying, like what you have on this podcast and kind of telling the history, I think will demystify some things and some people to a level where it makes it more accessible. Because I mean, all I want is to people keep drifting and having fun, and building their own culture.
That's why because that's why I'm more than happy to help like Jason from Animal Style, even though I feel some kind of way because he's got like something like 13,000 followers. I'm like, you really want my advice?
But it's not about that, right? It's
exactly. It's like, well, I'm here. If you really want to know how to get here, I can help you.
It's just like, that time period, I don't think they ever pull through. Like, remember when Instagram was gonna like eliminate how many likes you got on a photo and stuff? I was all for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but it's because Facebook bought them out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there needs to be, as a society, like a pullback from that kind of stuff. Of like,
that's why I pulled away from social media for so long.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's great that like people who have a large following can reach out to people who maybe don't have as large a following, but they see value in making that partnership and that connection.
Right.
Just for the betterment of what you're trying to both do collectively.
Right.
But yeah, and I think that's a really key component of what a lot of us should probably be doing in the next couple of years, is cultivating the next level of, or like, I guess the next recruitment, if that's the right word.
Generation.
If you want car culture to exist, right? Yes, you have to. You have to recruit the younger generation.
Yeah. And I mean, without it, it's gonna all go away. And
exactly.
I mean,
I'm working on it. Trust me, we're making sure it's gonna go away if you don't make sure it stays.
Would you guys say it's okay to go or expand out to like electric cars.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's the future, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
So like
I would.
for the new generation of kids, they
It's
might
just a different kind of
just have
car.
electric cars.
I don't. Yeah,
You can
I
have
don't.
a sporty electric car.
I don't care how it gets done. I just think drifting and
just
sliding a
needs more
car is just the feeling that you get while doing it is something extremely unique. And
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you do it in a front wheel drive Civic. I don't care if you do it in a Miata or 240 or a Tesla Model 3. Like it doesn't matter to me. But like,
That's
I
funny.
mean, there's something to be said for shifting gears and the noise and the sound and the smell and all of that, but that's just because that's what we're used to,
Right.
you know.
So that's funny that you say that
Yeah.
because I was just talking to TF Mike today, and he told me Dave is getting a Model 3. He just put in an order for a Model 3. Mike's
Well,
asking me about the next gen
makes sense.
Explorer, right?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Dude,
I mean,
want a
you've
Model
got
3.
all those other shops. I mean, I don't know if you've seen like
Sasha.
Evasive.
Do you know Mountain Pass Performance?
No. Oh, I've heard of it, but like
So-
even Evasive
Yeah.
is massive, right? And they just did an amazing like time attack Model 3 with, I think Dai Yoshihara was driving it and like set some right. So like, it is the future whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it's-
like,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
don't
I
know.
don't mean to cut you off, but like
No.
that, because like Mountain Pass Performance, they used to. Do you remember Sasha from Canada?
Yep.
Who did the? That's his company.
350Z?
Yeah, that's his company. But he only that company only does Model 3s.
Yeah.
So they do Model 3 performance parts for the track.
And it's smart. I mean,
It's coming. The future's
I mean,
coming.
every day you see some other company unveiling some other thing. Hummer with their new EV Hummer, like it's just like it is the way of the future, and to deny it is being kind of dumb.
Yeah.
But I think there will always be a place for the combustion engine and what we have grown up doing.
Mhm.
It will become harder to do, of course, more expensive to do. Yes, but
more
I mean,
passion.
yeah. But I mean, there'll be a new generation of the way you tune an
Electric
EV,
cars, yeah.
whatever it happens to be. But like,
Yeah.
or it's a kit. And I mean, I can't even think. Someone's probably got to even think about it. Like a kit to turn an FD or a 180 into an EV that you can drift.
Yeah.
That somehow
People are
you
doing
can,
that,
somehow you can connect. As you talked about before, I think in another episode, like, why can't you make it a manual EV? Like, because that's the only thing really missing from the EV equation and drifting is you just need a sequential or like something that allows you to manually control the transmission.
Really, all you're looking for is torque control.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's all you need.
Yeah.
You need torque control so you can control wheel speed and you know, like all of that. And you need a non-electrical e-brake as well in reality. So there's like a couple of things you have to do, but it's like, who's to say that some company won't be able to do that for the chassis that we love? But when an SR20 is like a bar of gold and there's no way you can find one.
One Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
How much do they go for now? Like
I don't even know.
No, it's like $4,000 just for the motor, right?
I don't even know. I started to look for, I mean, it's not an SR, but for example, like I was looking for a 2J with a manual transmission to potentially swap into my Sport Cross.
Yeah.
It's like $12,000.
$12,000?
I mean,
go fuck yourself.
The engine itself is probably only like 3 to 4 of that. It's for that particular transmission is what's just like ridiculous, right? But it's just like that's going to continue and it's going to be unreachable for people who want to get into it. And you're either going to have people who just completely leave it because it's just unattainable, or there's a new way to get into it. And if it's one day at US Air at a Club of Far event, there's no engine noise in it, and it's just silence and tire squealing, like, so be it.
So here's the thing, what people fail to realize about the benefits of EV. So like, you know how I think I told you like last month I was down in Austin and I spoke with Chris from Grid Life. So I want to get into his ear about how to change the rules for EVs and how to handle the competition side of EVs, because I don't know if he's really thought it through. Mm-hmm. And then also it helps make tracks easier to build because the zoning becomes easier because there's less noise complaints. So therefore you can get more seat time. And so like, I know you and I and Phil and Simba and a couple other people have been talking about getting this racetrack built. So hopefully we can make that happen in the next few years, so we have a permanent home for ourselves.
Yeah.
But there are benefits to EVs that go beyond just the driving dynamics.
Yeah. The thing for me for EVs, I think EV in a time attack or like wheel-to-wheel race kind of setting, I think it's okay. I think the problem with drifting is you do use the sound of the motor as an indication of when you should be doing certain things, right? Whether it's a clutch kick or a downshift or an upshift, and you can feel it some in the seat of your pants, with the seat. But like the audible nature of drifting in some positions is like you kind of need it, and that's the piece that I'm not sure how it would translate, but I'm sure people can adapt, right?
If you're just using audio cues, that's why they pump in the sound, right? So you can hear that pitch
and that's
when you know to click up, right?
Yeah. So I want to ask, when you say you use that engine noise and the tire noise as well, obviously, as the indicator, is it an indication of an RPM, or is it like, because if
it's like pitch, right? Because it correlates to an RPM. Because you're listening for a sound, it's really a frequency your brain registers.
When that's indicating an RPM, that's essentially mean you just need to know what torque band or like what power band the current engine is sitting on.
What you need to do next to set up the sequence for the corner.
Right. And I would say it's a combination of, I hope I'm explaining this right, and if people who drift, hopefully I'm not saying something wrong here, but like it's just from what I experienced, like it's the noise of the engine RPM level, and is it bogging or doing something, and is it the tire noise? But it's also as your hand is resting on the gear shift, like what is it? What do you feel there? Like is it rough? Is it like I don't know. There's so much sensory in what you do without thinking about it that I think if you remove all of that direct mechanical interaction that you have with a manual transmission and the audible cues that an engine gives you, it would be a pretty big learning curve of like, how do you react to it? Now, I could be completely wrong, never having driven an EV in anger, but like, because there's unlimited instant torque, maybe it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. So
maybe it simplifies the entire process.
So nuances. Because you don't have to shift, right? And there's torque on demand. You don't have to worry about upshifts or downshifts.
Right.
And
like
all you have to worry. All you have to do is
like when you go.
I was gonna say all you have to do is worry about disrupting the rear end, right? To get it loose. And then as soon as you do that, you just put the floor on and you keep it going for as long as you need.
Right. But I mean, I think it's the key for it all is going to be how would the e-brake potentially play into it too, because
you'd have to retrofit a hydro.
I don't even know for a hydro. I mean, for me personally, I actually don't like hydro e-brakes. I like cable because it offers modulation.
Sure.
I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I haven't built a full-fledged drift car with newfangled, that sounds bad, but like new hydro e-brake. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more progressive, but when I was really into it and hydros were coming new, it was like an on and off switch. But
that's what EVs are, right? It's all binary.
Yeah. But like for me, an e-brake doesn't only lock to a stop.
Slows you down, right?
It slows it down. Like, and if you watch even old option videos in D1, there's times when I pull the e-brake and when you look outside, they're not locking the wheel, they're just slowing the wheel down. And so there's pieces of that like you'd have to incorporate somehow into the EV. And I don't know how that works with the electronic motor. Like
so
if that's
possible, the electronic motor itself isn't the issue. The issue is it's more practical. So right now there's no cars that are EVs that are built with handbrakes. They're all they're all electronic solenoids, which is why you have to currently use a hydro. But in the future, let's say you were to build a manual transmission EV, you could also have a handbrake work exactly like the current handbrake, where it's all cable based, using a shoe. it wouldn't be exactly that, but it could feel like that, because my guess is it would just be cheaper to do it another way, so we wouldn't use cables.
I feel like that wouldn't be an OEM decision.
Exactly.
Rather, it would be a shop that sort of developed the parts, and
you can do it. Yeah, totally. There's no reason why you can't.
Yeah. I mean, you think about like the e-brake system that you have in like a WRC car, where when they pull it, it disengages the entire rear drivetrain to allow you to pull the e-brake and modulate what you need. Like it could be a very similar where you pull it, it's a shoe on the actual drum or whatever it may be, but it also disengages the electronic motor. So no matter what it's doing, it stops the engagement.
Well, you know how like when you pull the e-brake, there's a sensor to turn that light for the brake is on. You can also use that as a switch to disengage the motor. Yeah, exactly. So it's very simple in terms of like making it work.
So this is $1 million shop idea for
for anyone who wants to build EV drift cars. There's your $1 million idea, free of charge.
I mean, I call it, man. I mean, I'm sure there's someone working on it now, but like
it has to.
If there's an EV solution for current popular drift platforms, I feel like it would be advantageous and something that has legs, because you can only rebuild an SR so many times. There's only so many of these things that have even been made, and the only thing that could happen is, and I think you guys talked about it before with someone else, but it's like, unless these OEMs release the specifications to have some aftermarket company reproduce items, which is a thing because we've seen it in the muscle car industry, but like unless someone makes a new SR block and head, like you're going to run out of this stuff, and you're going to have another option, right?
My guess is what is going to happen is like Nissan and Mazda, like how they're reviving like the Rs, like the R34s, R33s, and R32s, and Mazda's now doing the Miatas as well as the rotaries. They're going to do that because it's just going to become more, they already have the molds, right? So why not make all the money for themselves? So it's going to happen once the equation adds up.
And I think you're right. Like they'll be able to do this like we've seen with Nissan and the GTR, and none of that is cheap by any means. So they can set the market to whatever they want. It's like,
because you want OEM.
Yeah.
Guys like Damon, right? Camry on bronze. He'll buy it because he wants OEM.
He'll buy it. The Miata community is massive.
Yeah, 100. And the most popular sports car.
Yeah, and if you can buy OEMs of this, and this, and it's 3 times what it was new, it doesn't matter. Because they'll buy it. Yeah. It's OEM quality. It's OEM fit and finish, and then it goes to like the restoration where like it's a correct factory part, right? Yeah. So I see that being a thing, but there's going to have to be a new generation of things as well, right?
There will be EVs for the poorer people.
I wonder, because there may be car companies and brands that may not survive.
They won't
in the next 20 years.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't have a practical like solution to a changing times, like you as a company as a whole, you may not survive. So like
exactly.
So companies like Mazda, let's say like as much as Miatas are widespread, they may not survive. If they don't survive, there will be a company that buys up the like the parts, like making like licenses and whatnot. That company might do well.
So have you guys heard about the chip shortage issue in the automotive industry right now? So it's like all over the news, right? It's because right now everyone is trying to copy Tesla's playbook and create vehicles that are able to get over-the-air updates. So that means you can just get on a Wi-Fi connection, you update the software instead of taking it to the dealership. And because of that, everyone needs chips, right? And all the AV stuff, everyone needs chips, and that's what is essentially driving the chip shortage in the auto industry. On top of this Bitcoin mining stuff.
No, I mean, I think there's a drastic shift happening right now. We all see it, and where does it leave the classical automotive enthusiasts? I don't really know. And I think
it's going to be like horses. Like only rich people will have horses, right?
Yeah, because I think it's, unfortunately, I think we're going to see a really interesting game play out with traditional fossil fuels, right? I mean, there's no way around it, right? It's like, should I go buy like 20, barrels of like 93 octane and like keep it in my garage with
don't do that, people. It'll go bad.
And put in like some of that, what is that called, like stable
fuel?
Like,
yeah. Oh, I speak only for the Midwest because we have 93 octane with 10% ethanol, so it goes bad.
Yeah. But it's just like, at some point I feel like something's going to change. I don't know if we're going to have a drastic drop in price followed by like a drastic rise in price because they stopped producing it. I mean,
who knows?
But I think, I think the biggest, it's an interesting thing. I don't know if you've read up on Toyota's feelings on the EV movement.
Because of the batteries, So
it's not just the battery, but it's
they're not fully convinced.
Yeah.
Well, no, I would say that they are convinced that this is the future. I think what they're trying to tell people is that the timelines that people are considering for this
it's not
are highly unrealistic, because if you think right now, the number of people who are employed directly in the automobile industry as a result of fossil fuels and internal combustion engines, it's immense. And to like disrupt that entire industry within a 10-year period is going to be devastating to the economies, right? And so they're like, look, we get this as the future, but it's not an overnight thing.
I'll tell you what's happening right now. So this decade, right now what's happening is Europe is going to EV, right? The next decade, America is going to go to EV. And then after that, Asia. And then after that, it's the emerging markets. They'll go, not necessarily even EV, because what people forget is like the ultimate goal is zero greenhouse gas emissions. It's not to get battery power. So fuel cells with hydrogen, right? If you like noise and you like filling up, that's a potential solution that we're working on, right? But EV is just one solution. It's just the most, it's the fastest way to get off greenhouse gas or get our greenhouse gas.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm like, I always think of Back to the Future, and I'm like,
Mr. Fusion.
I was like, I want my Miata with a turbo that in the back I can like throw in banana peels and orange peels and like
beer with the can.
And like blast off into the future. And like that's what powers my car.
I
mean, it's still, you know what I mean?
Like, there's alternative energy sources we're working on.
Old Mercedes diesel and put in
vegetable oil. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, guys, we have one more whiskey sitting here.
Let's get into it. Let's wrap it up. So it's
what is this?
I just like talking to you, Rob, because I don't see you often enough. This is Whistle Pig. It's technically from Vermont. It's a rye whiskey, so it's not bourbon, but it's finished in I don't know how you say this, but it's umishu. Umishu barrels.
Plum wine.
Take your break. So it's Japanese plum wine. So again, that American Japanese connection.
Nice.
And then for you, I figured, because to bring it back to America, now that you're back with your family and you have like a hybrid family like I do, let's talk about fatherhood, man.
Man, these parents, this is like well thought out. This is good stuff, man.
That's why it took 9 months to do 3 interviews.
Oh man.
But also my job keeps me busy, and parenthood keeps me busy.
All of us, right? But this is good. Ooh, that has an interesting nose.
It's got like that plum
smell. It's there. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
It also does have some of that rye spice. So like Hohen goes on about like this minty flavor that gets imparted by rye. So it does have a little bit like of a mint, like.
It definitely does.
Yeah. If you like get like, past like the heat. Mint.
Yeah.
Just like how mint like has that spiciness to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, speaking of parenthood, I think you touched on this a little bit. I think when you talked with Phil in a previous episode, but like, I don't know how you feel. And I think you hit on it a little bit where like, if your son is inquisitive and pushes and wants to learn about cars and what it is, you'll be all about it. Yeah. But for me, I mean, I have girls, and not to say that they can't get into cars, because more power to them and they can do whatever they want. Yeah. But I will definitely not be pushing them into it, because to our
It's a whole
earlier
rabbit hole.
conversation-
You don't want,
to our earlier conversation, if you can think of how much money we would have in the bank right now, able to invest or do whatever we want to do with, if you didn't use it on cars, we'd be crying, right? Like I don't even want to think and try to, how much money like I've spent on the Miata, the S15, the 240, and the Corolla, that Phil has. Not like, you don't even want to think about that stuff. And if you cannot have your children be involved in this mess that is both financially crippling,
drug addiction,
but also
it's genetic too.
Mentally, but it's funny because it's financially crippling, but all of us here and so many people listening, I can tell you, have made lifelong and extremely impactful friendships because of it.
Yeah,
like
it's worth the price.
But man, I don't wish it on anybody.
No. So this is like my parents to this day will lecture me if I spend money on cars. And I'm like, listen, you guys understand, I got to this position in life because I spent money on cars, right? Like I got my job because I was curious about cars. So please back off. But at the same time, I'm like, God damn, I spent too much money on fucking cars.
Oh no, I mean, and it's the thing being older. Like I remember when I began building the Corolla that Phil has now that you guys talked about. The way that build began was because I was fortunate enough to be asked to judge at the first final bout by Ilya and the final bout team. Mm-hmm. And I realized that there was no way in hell I was going to final bout 2 without driving, because I realized how much I hate watching drifting.
Yep. That's why I stopped going to events.
I hate it with a passion. Like it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like going somewhere expecting sex, but all you can do is watch, and then you just get to leave.
You don't even get to jerk off because you're in public.
You don't get to exactly. And it's the best I can do to explain it. I was like, there is no way I'm ever going back and not driving, and so that's where I began the build of that car. But I built that car starting with in sales at the moment, like I got a really nice bonus check, and I was just like, oh, shit, I'm not going to tell my wife about this. We're just going to build a drift car in another state 3,000 miles away. No harm, no foul, right? If she doesn't know. but you think about it as an adult, like not 10 years later, like 5-6 years later, and you're like, I was like, do you know where Tesla and Microsoft and Amazon were 5 or 6 years ago? And if I had taken that check and put a third into each of those, I could have built 15 of these Corollas.
I know, man.
But if you didn't buy that wheel and put it in Bitcoin.
Exactly. I ordered RS Watanabe wheels from Japan, which were ridiculously expensive. I was like, one of those wheels, if I had put it into any of these companies we're talking about right now, I would have been able to buy the company or something, right? It's just like, it's ridiculous, right? But it's just funny how, like, as you get older, like, you think about stuff like that. But I wouldn't take it back either. At the same point, like, that car evolved and became something so much more impactful to me, to Phil, as you've learned, like, and it's like, I wouldn't take it back. But as an adult and a parent, you think of, like, I could have paid for my 2 daughters' college educations if I had just, instead of buying a shitty chassis, just put it into Robinhood and been like, all right, go. This is
why like the Subaru, right? The GD, the STI that I have.
Yeah.
By the time I turned 25, I had already sunk, including the price of the car, $60,000 into a 2005 Subaru, right? And that's why people are like, oh, when are you going to fix it? When are you going to fix it? Like, I've been holding on to it for like the last 10 years doing nothing with it. And people are like, when are you going to fix it? I'm just like, soon, hopefully. But I keep putting it off because, and like, I've been saying like this week, I'm like, look, I know another round of stimulus money is coming. Don't buy wheels, invest it, take the proceeds, and then buy the wheels. And so this week I happened to get my wheels in, right? Because that's what I did.
It looks good. It looks good.
Advans, right? And they're I wanted RGs, but I couldn't find any. So I had to get the RSs, right? And I had to get them in gunmetal because that's the cheapest.
It's the RS2?
RS2s, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like the RS2.
And plus they're 5x100, so I have to get spacers, but whatever. But they're $1,000
like
bucks.
You said, But like you said, thank you to Subaru and Toyota for keeping the first BRZ 5x100 because it opened up the world for a lot of Subaru people. But no, but I think at this point in our life, like I think we can wait to do these things because when we were younger, I think it was a race to impress other people.
Yeah.
And just I need to build this as fast as possible because
but it wasn't even for the internet. It was because like being in TF, right? It was like to like hang out with your friends and be like, hey, look what I can do, and like it's just like friendly rivalry.
Go to this meet, go to that meet, go to this event, and have like the coolest thing. And now like you don't.
Now it's for
that.
Likes, so it's just
when you don't have that pressure now, like with my sport cross, like. If I don't do anything for 2 more years and then one day just go ape shit and do everything, like I'm fine. It's not for anyone but me.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy at that point. And I think what's interesting with this Corolla when I built it is it was an interesting time to build a car because one, I was not physically there the entire time. Everything that I built on that car was via email and AIM Messenger before it got discontinued and text messages with Mike Lee, who will tell you he probably hates me now because I'm an OCD motherfucker and I annoyed the shit out of him during that build. But it's like you reach a point in your life and you've achieved enough in life to like Earl, you could send that car to some shop and just tell them what you want to do and send them money and it'll get done. Because I don't know about you, but I fucking hate working on cars, man.
I hate it. Like, dude, my entire job is working on cars. People think like, oh, you must do your own oil changes. No, fuck though. It's $20. Why would I waste my time?
I'm gonna pay you for $80 to change my oil. I don't want to do that shit. Yeah,
I like pay Earl Pepsi and a Chipotle.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Jimmy paid me 1 Chipotle burrito to install coilovers on his fucking
IS300.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Fuck
$10? No, fuck yourself.
Fuck that.
No, but
we've achieved enough to say no.
Yeah, exactly. Now I can say no.
We've come this far in life, and if the last thing we can do is get under a car on a cold ass night or something, or like a sweaty ass August afternoon, more power to us, man. We've earned our stripes. That's all I can say. Yeah.
But at the same time, Earl, when you were working on the car, it wasn't that you needed the Chipotle to survive.
No.
You voluntarily.
I did it out of the kindness of my heart, but also because I'm a nerd and I wanted to peek at the IS300 multi-link.
So there was an ulterior motive besides the survival.
Sure, but I was underpaid. I was severely underpaid. Is my point. I'm still severely underpaid.
Again, you named the price.
Sure. But I mean, but that's also a time where we were all learning and we were interested. And the reason why I did all this work on my car or the work you did on your friends' cars was because you were genuinely interested to find out how it all worked and came together. And for you, especially Earl, like it lend itself to your career and you can be in some meeting and be like, I've worked on this. I mean, I don't know your job to the minutia, but it's like, it's something you've learned and you can say like, I've worked on suspensions on these cars in a very like shade tree mechanic type of way, but like, I know how it works. I know how things, connect. Right.
Well, so
you owe us.
I owe you. I did the work for you, motherfucker.
We gave that platform.
I got paid for work. I don't owe you shit. Right. In fact, you owe me, but like an interesting thing is like because with the Mach-E, right? It's a brand new vehicle. It's all electric, like we were talking, but it's still technically a Mustang. And like you were saying, like I had to build this entire car or my part via email because you don't like think about how OEMs build cars. Like before the platform exists and the chassis exists, how do you build it? So it's all through email, electronic. Some trial and error, right? But ultimately, you don't know what you're doing until it finally gets to the plant. And right now, that's where we're at. So if you've been keeping up with the media, over the summer, we're launching the Mach-E. So this week, I've been under a lot of pressure to like get that delivered.
I saw one here this past weekend.
So that's the base car. I work on the
it wasn't the GT. It wasn't the GT performance, but I was like, oh, there goes one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And so like now, like anytime you see a Mach-E, like you're gonna have to think like, oh, there's the Earl, the fucking asshole who worked on that shit, right? But
But in a roundabout way, it's the same feeling. If I can boil this down, it's you've worked on your car for like a week straight in your garage, and you turn that jack and you let it down, and you're like, what's gonna happen now?
The first
is it gonna fall apart? Is it gonna start? Am I gonna roll off and all the wheels are gonna fall off because I didn't tighten something? It's the same feeling, but in a way
every single time.
In a way that your career and your paycheck and your whole family's existence depend on it.
So here's the difference.
No pressure.
No. Before when it was my own car and I turned the key and I'm about to drive it, it's like just don't let me die. Just let me get back into the garage. And if anything's wrong, I'll fix it. Right now, it's just like, please don't let anyone else die because I fucked up my job. So it's a lot of stress.
Oh man,
it's so much.
To this point, the craziest story I have on this, I think we all have a crazy story on like you worked on your car or someone's car and you missed something and it kind of fucked up. But I remember I had my car at Touge Factory and I was working somewhere else at the time. I worked at like a physical therapy office with Eric Wortman, which is an interesting one. But I had my car at Touge Factory, and I think Dave and Eric Francisco they're putting in my LSD in my Miata. And I think Eric forgot to put on the crown nut that goes on the end of your axle, right? And it holds the axle to the hub and the wheel and like everything, right?
Yep.
And then Phil went and picked it up from them when it was done to come pick me up at work. And so he's going down 90, like, and it's Phil. He's not taking it easy.
Does he have the license or not at this point?
Probably not.
Not, right?
My recollection of Phil is he had no license from like the time I met him to like 2020. Like,
so you left America.
He never had a license is how I kind of see it in my head.
Yep.
And so he's like, and it's Phil. He's in a turbocharged Miata with like a new LSD that was just broken in or whatever. Yeah. And like, he's just booking it down 90, like to come pick me up. And he's like, he called me in the car, which is like, you know, our old ass like brick cell phones that you play Snake on. He's like calling me.
Nokias.
And the Nokias, right? He's like, man, dude, this car is so fun, but it feels really weird. It's like back and forth. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know. Just get here and pick me up. So he like comes and picks me up. And like, so Eric had forgot the crown nut that goes on the end of the axle, right? And so the car was like literally going like this, like down the road. And it was like the craziest. I was like, the whole wheel and hub could have like flown off.
Yeah.
And like done all of that, right?
On the highway,
and like
doing 90.
On the highway, like, you know, like doing that. And he picks me up. I'm like, I drive it for like 2 seconds. I'm like, this is not right. This is not. So we like get back on 90. We go back up all the way north to Northbrook.
Oh God.
Touge Factory was at the time. And I'm in like the right lane, like going like 30. Like he's like, dude, you could totally go like 60. I was going like 60 to like 90. I was like, bro, this ain't your car. Like I can't. And so like we get to Northbrook, we like get off of what is like 90 connects to like 294. You go up there, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. We get there and like at the point they were like breaking in the diff where you like, you know, do your figure eights to like break in a clutch diff. It had like popped off or something. So it's like literally like sitting on the street. I'm like, the crown nut is just like sitting right there, guys. Like, how does it? And then it's just like one of those times where you're like, sometimes you just got to do shit yourself.
Wait, what year was this? Was this when you took my dad for the ride?
Oh,
in the Miata? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Was it? Was that it?
That was in Northbrook.
Was that at Road America? No. Was that at a track or was it on
No, it was in Northbrook. It was like when I was like 19 when I first met TF Dave. And like I had my S14. Maybe. And I was picking it up from getting the swap.
Probably around that time frame then, yeah. But I remember giving your dad for right. Yeah. It was probably around that time frame, but like, it's just one of those times where like, I can't imagine how many people actually have real disasters after working on their own car.
Yeah.
But we skirted disaster like somehow, but like that was craziness. And Eric Francis is like, sorry, man, I don't know. Like,
no, not to throw.
Now he has his own shop, but I recommend that you go to.
I do as well because he's so meticulous.
Eric's Auto Lab, and
he's
a good guy. He's a good guy, but like, it's just funny how like you work on your own car and you sometimes you got the handful of bolts. You're like, where did these come from?
Yeah. No. So
I thought
like
I was done, but there's something left over.
so just to paint a fuller picture of Eric and not to throw him under the bus. Shout out to Eric Francisco. We love you. He's like a big brother to me, right? But Eric, like he's just happened to be a few years older, happened to have a few more tools than I, and happened to know the right Google search before I did at that point, right? Because we were all, because like that was like 2003, 4. So like none of us really knew what we were doing. We were all in our early 20s, right?
Don't say none of us. You didn't.
Fine, but I didn't. Did you know? Eric didn't know.
How to Google?
No, how to do like an SR swap.
Oh, I don't.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Because Eric did my SR swap at Touge Factory, right? Back in 2004.
Yeah.
And I got it back. And for whatever reason, whenever I went watt, it would just bog and it would just never build boost. And we could never figure out why. So it was like a 3-month process between like emails, like going back and forth. And mind you, I'm like 18 or 19 at this time, trying to deal with like who I think are adults, right? In a real shop at the time on how to get my car fixed.
Yeah.
And then I found out like at some future, I found out actually this year, Francisco told me what had gone wrong was at the time, he didn't realize you needed a shielded wire for the crank angle sensor signal. So you just need to have this special wire. There's nothing really particularly different other than it's got like plastic on it to block like electromagnetic waves, basically.
Like interference.
Exactly, interference. So it's just a different kind of wire, and that's all that was fucking needed. But because the harness that came from the swap or from the clip was cut, they didn't think about it, and they just replaced the wire with any old wire.
Yeah. Dude, it's like, but those are the days where like you couldn't just Google like how to do a swapper with what the wiring was, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy, like the amount of dumb shit that we've done with cars and kind of like a trial and error.
The fact that I'm still alive amazes me.
Exactly. Like,
Owen already mentioned this.
I mean, Eric, I remember too. This is funny because it's a wiring thing. Eric wired up a fan for me on my Miata that I had a switch under the dash that like I could turn it on and off because I kept overheating after a drift run, and then I would, you do your run and then you would sit in the line to wait, and then the car would overheat. Yeah. Right?
Was it an electric fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it would only kick on with the ECU telling it it's too hot. But I was like, I just want to run it the whole time. Right. Can you just? He's like, yeah, I'll wire that up for you. Great. Yeah. But I remember like we were picking up. I remember I picked up Alex Pfeiffer in Milwaukee at the airport, and we were driving up to Road America to do an event at Road America, the Briggs and Stratton, whatever it's called. Yeah. It's not even called that anymore. It's something else. But we're like driving down or like up through like Sheboygan or something like that. And all of a sudden.
Sheboygan Falls.
Yes, Sheboygan Falls, right? The world's biggest like American flag waving in the background. Right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, like under my dash, like a fire erupts, right? And like Alex Pfeiffer's like, oh shit, your car's on fire. And I'm just like, oh, like, so we pull over and like it actually just like it goes on fire and then it fizzles and it's done. But I feel like it's kind of the same thing where like he looked at it later and he's like, yeah, I didn't use the right wire to.
It's just like too thin, right? So the overcurrent.
Yeah, and it was like no fault of his own. It was just like, how do you like you don't know this like kind of thing, but like it's always a trial and error. And now. And I for anyone listening, you can still take your car to Eric's Auto Lab, and it will be amazing.
Trust me, he's got 20 years of experience after this. He knows what he's doing.
He's cut his teeth on people like myself and Earl
and me.
He knows,
He's built the wisdom.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's got plenty of experience. I trust him with my life.
Yeah. But it's just funny how like when you're learning this before the internet, like it's a bit of a trial and error process.
Barbaric, man.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I wanted again to start the podcast to like give context and stories to the pictures that people saw on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Because for example, like Risky Devil is like a huge thing, but because I didn't have a drift car, most people don't know I was involved at all, right?
Yeah.
But even though like all like the OGs know, like I'm the crazy guy who went past the cop on 94, right? Like speeding past him at 140 miles an hour. So, but like these are the stories that the internet will, doesn't really know about because we never posted it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't be posting stuff like that anyways.
Well, I'll redact it. I'll just blank out I'll put a beep.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just, I think what's really cool about the Chicago scene, if we're going back to that, is there were very distinct time frames within it of like very succinct shifts in what it was. And, a group of us started Club Afar and went forward with that. And then it kind of branched off into the street scene for a while, which I never really was very much involved in.
Because you were already moved. You already left the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of like, I was kind of scared of it, to be honest with you. Yeah. It was also a little bit on that of, when that really started coming about with Goose and stuff like that, I had already been in Japan.
Yeah.
And I think I went to Goose a few times and I was kind of underwhelmed. Yeah. And that's and
it's literally one corner, but the internet hypes it up. Yeah.
And that's just me as like a person, like having seen some other things. And I was like, I'm not gonna risk my license and my car to do this. But the people who did it and did it well did it amazing, and more power to them. They did an amazing thing there.
Oh, they did.
Because like
they took one corner and made it internet famous.
Yeah, and
right,
and that's amazing too. Yeah, like, and it was fun. I did it maybe once or twice, and I was like, this was cool, but like, I had a different reference point to what I really had seen.
Yeah.
But before that, I mean, and Simba had alluded to this in his previous episode too. Like, we went to the DCs, which are distribution centers in Romeoville and Plainfield, and him and me and Brian Crabb and Jesse and Eric Wortman. I mean, those were the times, like he was saying, like, we could drift there all night long and no one knew what the hell was going on. And there's no
crowd, right?
There was no crowd. There was no police presence because they didn't really know what this was. And you know what I mean? Like,
so I remember it was like, before it was like a after work thing, right? With the TF guys, we would just go.
Oh, yeah,
that's how I found out about it, right? And then like the TF customers would go, right? Yeah. And then they would tell their friends. And then eventually it just grew into this huge thing. And then I would just be there because I'm in my Super, right? I'm just there sleeping. Because like, I just wanted to drive the highway, right? Cruise to the spot, post up. They're drifting while I'm sleeping. It's 4 a.m. trying to cruise back on the highway home. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an interesting time because people started being involved that it was almost like we didn't want to involve in it because it would get too big.
Everyone felt like they owned a piece of it because it was really about Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So everyone felt they owned a piece of it.
Yeah. And I think, like Grip Gambler and then more so maybe Risky Devil have a certain place in the history book of what Chicago drifting culture was.
Right.
And they're all very, very important, right? Yeah. And I think they all had their different pieces of it. And then ultimately you have Club Afar in the background is like the joining place where all of these teams would join and kind of just drift together, which was really cool. And I think is what maybe goes back to what we talked about hours ago now, is like, it's this really cool structure of bringing everyone together. And, with Ilya and with Simba and the other team within Proceed that kind of had this image of Final Bout, bringing all these things together and culminating them all together into these drift team events, it kind of like brought everything together and said, we all have our own thing, but we all love the same thing. Let's do it together. Yep. And it took that next step in the Chicago culture and put us on a stage that I think, and amazing credit to Ilya and the whole team there and the influence that we had to push that forward. Now I shouldn't say we, I didn't have anything to do it. Yeah. I didn't have anything to do with that. But like, I mean, in the early stages of Final Bout, Club Afar was very kind of intertwined, and then it kind of became its own thing, which is fine. Right. So I don't want to say we, But like it definitely pushed the whole thing forward, and it took these clicky pieces and kind of put them together, and again put them together into a world that's like we're all doing the same thing for the same reason, and we love this thing called drifting, and we have a similar feeling about it. It should be a car show while drifting. Is what it really should be. Like, it's not about who wins and who loses, even though there was a competition. It's not about that. It's about everyone should look fucking cool drifting, right? And so it took all the phases of Chicago and kind of like pull it all together and made it this one thing that now, I mean, we're kind of known for, right?
So the best way I can put this in an analogy is in basketball terms, because that's just what I know. So in basketball terms, what Rob has just been describing is like the NBA. And you don't get to Michael Jordan without Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. So in this scenario, we'll say Rob is Larry Bird because he's obviously white, right? And then we'll say
John Paxson.
Yeah, fine, whatever. If you want to be a Bulls player, right? Sink the game-winning three.
John Paxson, Steve Kerr.
But you know your role, right? Either way. But let's say
I make the John Paxson, Steve Kerr. I make the clutch shot. That's all I'm saying. We'll leave it at that.
That's fair.
Leave it at that.
That's fair. And then if we're gonna say final, Club FR, let's say, is the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson era, and Final Bout is the MJ era. Let's just say that. But you don't get to MJ without Bird and Johnson, or without Magic Johnson, right?
And Paxton.
Yeah, and Paxton, right? He helped win the '92 title. So, the '92.
He won that. He won.
Exactly. The '92. Yeah, exactly.
The shot.
Exactly. And Kerr, right, in '97.
The shot.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
But what I'm trying to ultimately say, though, in this basketball analogy, is that really we think Final Bout is MJ, but it's not. Chicago and Final Bout has always been Allen Iverson, right? MJ is technically Formula D, but we've always been Allen Iverson, and we inject our own style and our own fingerprint on the game.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to boil it down to Chicago. I feel like how do you just?
I really think we're AI. We changed the game, but not necessarily. We're not like the greatest.
No, I don't think we changed the game. We just did what other people were doing, and then we happened to be in the right place, the right time, with the right people to make it very different in our own.
That's where I feel like I said, we're Ty Lue. We're always in the right moment, the right place at the right time.
No, I feel like maybe in a very simple sense, to keep it Chicago.
Yeah.
We are. Club FR is Jordan, and then no, that's the wrong way. No. Club FR is Pippen.
Yep.
And then Touge Factory and Dave and what he did is Jordan.
He's Jordan.
And then you have a supporting cast, but you could not have Jordan without Pippen, and you couldn't have Pippen without Jordan, and you couldn't have 6 rings without either of those two. And all of the supporting cast in between, whether it's the Risky Devil people, it's the Grip Gambler people, it's everyone in between, like the Dark Star people. It's Ilya before he was in any of this and before the Proceed.
Oh, dude, I remember Ilya, the first event he went to, and he wouldn't shut up. Oh my god, I still remember that.
Oh man, the earliest memory I have of Ilya is at Automass. If you remember Automass.
Yeah, that was like 08.
Yeah.
Or
no,
09.
No. Automass was 2012.
Oh, was it?
Automass was 2012.
Holy
and I only
shit.
remember that is because there was a time period where I moved back to Chicago from Hawaii for like a period and worked again at Touge Factory.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Well, my life was doing this.
Yeah.
But like, and I know he drifted before that at different events, but like, and Ilya, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering this, but like you were drifting your red FC and you had, I want to say like a super young You had like a super young like Russian girl in the passenger seat the whole time, and it's just like it's ingrained in my memory of like you just like going crazy, going ham in this car, doing things. I was like, how are you doing this with an NAFC? And you had this like this kind of cute Russian girl in your passenger seat.
That's 4 years of street drifting the same chassis, man.
Yeah, no, and
Exactly.
I mean, big ups to Ilya and what he's been able to do in that chassis.
Sure.
Like,
shout out to Ilya.
He did, the things he did in that NAFC chassis were legendary.
Yeah.
And I think the fact he's in that FD now, he's doing other really really cool things, and what he's done along with the rest of the team in Final Bout have been,
man, I cannot
legendary as well.
I cannot wait to interview Ilya and the rest of Proceed. I already talked to the guys.
Yeah. I think what he did is definitely taking stuff into the next level. And I mean, it's interesting because now we're talking about things that have happened 5 years ago now, which is kind of crazy, but it still had legs. And that's what I think is the biggest test is it's a thing that is based on drifting, that it's all about how the car looks and the connections you have, and that will never change. So I don't think it will ever go out of style, if that's the right way to say it, right? Like, we all harp on drifting at the FD level of like, it's just about having 1,000 horsepower or having sponsors or doing this or doing that, but like what he and the Final Bout team has been able to put together is something that transcends time and money and horsepower, and it's just boiling down to really, really good-looking cars drifting.
It's just,
and that's it.
Honestly, I realized like through all these different hobbies and like interests I've picked up over the years, really what shines through, even through the internet, is just being honest about what you're passionate about. That transcends all,
And
definitely.
how we talked about, you went to Japan to drive on these mythical mountains, right? And I feel like Chicago, I'm not part of any of this, but hearing all this, it just sounds like the Chicago scene, like Goose Island, where it's just a stupid corner. It's all become mythical as well.
I'm gonna take you next time I'm in Chicago, just so you can see it for your own eyes.
I've
you've been?
Before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been there before. I mean, I had a front wheel drive.
It's one of these places where like it's nothing special, but you go there and you know the history, and you're like, some shit has gone down.
Dude, even when I stop by on a random Thursday in the middle of winter, there you can still see tire marks. It's fucking insane.
How many tires do you think you could make collectively of all the rubber strips that were laid down?
The entirety of Goose Island. The entirety of Goose Island. Because Goose Island is really built on a trash heap.
Yeah.
You know the office building that's on Goose Island, where we drift? My dad had the opportunity to buy that in the 90s for $100,000. And now it's worth like $10 million. Like, right? Yeah. Like, again, if you knew then what you know now.
What would you do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My dad could have owned Goose Island, and it could have been our private track.
Oh, man. Oh. Yeah, then we'd be ahead of the game.
Exactly. 20 years.
Yeah. But yeah, it's something that I think has been put together that will stay around for quite a long time. I think because there's no pretenses about what Final Bout is, and it's just about having fun with your car and your friends, and having a few people that have a car that maybe are painted the same color, or just in general, like you have the same outlook on your driving style and you drive together.
Yep.
Like that's always going to be exciting.
Yep.
Right. But for you, for people who work the event, and for people who will come and watch the event. And so I think it's really pushed forward what we do here in Chicago, and beyond, because I mean, as you know, you've got Special Stage West, you've got Special Stage East and Texas, and you've got all these different pieces of it that are really, really cool. And I think, to say it's rooted in Chicago is very, very cool, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean,
to say in some roundabout way, we were the birth of that in a very small amount is really cool. But I mean,
like, I know my role, right? Like, you guys planted the seed, I put on the water, and I just sit back and let it grow, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you got to let the sun do its thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. I mean, like Ilya and all of them and Proceed came to Club FR events for the first time to drive. Like, I mean, I remember giving Lay a ride at Norway one time, and I connected the entire track, and he was just like, "You just connect the whole track." I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." And now he could do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like in his sleep, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like everything has a cool progression that began with what a core of us started with Club FR. And I think it's really cool that Ilya has been able to, and the other Final Bout folks have been able to push to other areas of the country and make that part of what they do. In a roundabout way, the reason why I built that Corolla that Phil has is because we had Final Bout Special Stage West at Park in Washington, and it's the first time I met Sha Dynasty guys, who is Matt and Paul and his brother Mark, who have the Beams Corolla, the Beams Mango Corolla. And shit, I don't even know what he had at that time. Mark had at the time. Anyway, that's why I have Beams, because I met with them, and then I had the 3SG Beams, and I put in the Corolla, and it's just like all these connections come back to Chicago, and then how it is proliferated. Is that a word? And how it has grown into these connections all around the country. And now even Japan. I mean, I'm not even involved in the Japan piece as much, but I know Simba and Ilya and all those guys in Proceed have these connections in Japan, and they've driven there, and it's crazy.
When Final Bout 3 happened and I saw Sexy Nights went to Shawano,
it's crazy.
I was like, what the fuck is going on?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, this is not real. Like, okay, I clearly need to go to Final Bout, the next Final Bout. So
I mean, the fact that track is like world known now.
Yeah. They have a fucking video game version of it now.
Yeah, it's that piece was actually the one that made me think like, okay, that's fucking crazy. Like
it's bigger than we thought.
Yeah. And there's people everywhere that know this track. And I've driven a lot of tracks around the world, and I'm very thankful for that. I don't want to say around the world, in 2 countries. In the States,
big motorsporting countries,
but it's on opposite sides of the world, right?
Yeah, in Japan, mythical places, as you say, Hon, and in America too. But like that place is very, very special. Yeah, because of what it's been and what it's grown, and it's fun to drive, right? Like it's an amazing place, and to see that being opened up to a world stage is very, very.
It's so cool,
satisfying, right? I mean. It's funny with that track. Who found that track is actually Keith from Minnesota.
Really? Yeah.
So I was working with Eric from Grip Gambler at the physical therapy place that I alluded to before. Yep. And Keith calls me. He's like, "Hey, like, I was just like searching online and I found this go-kart track. Let me email it to you." So he emails me this track, the website. I was just like, this is amazing. And I remember vividly, he texted me back when text was like brand new. And
SMS.
He was like, yeah, SMS. And he was just like, get it. Yeah. That's what it, get it. And I was just like, oh shit. Because we had already done Tire Rack as our first couple of events, and we had done Norway as the next couple of events. And then we were looking for the next thing. He was just like, get it. And that's where I drove up there one day and met with them and did all this thing. And it's just crazy to see where it has evolved to being like a very special place in the history of drifting.
Because I remember I was there like the first US Air event. Because like I didn't join Club of Far. I wasn't around for the Club of Far the Norway days.
Yeah.
But I was there for
raining.
Yeah.
It was raining that day. I remember.
Yeah. But like after with US Air, like I just remember like when like that was just like the go-to spot, and like we were having trouble filling up spots and stuff. It was just this place is really cool. Like well, why don't people come out and drive it?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a time
That was like before like Josh was on the track and Chop was on the
there.
track, right? And Ilya.
Yeah, definitely. That was before Josh and Chob and a lot of them started driving, because they were still into the Hondas and they had
street driving eventually.
Yeah, and they had ITRs and were amazing too, and a whole nother beautiful world of automotive culture. But like, they were always there.
Yep.
And that's what's funny. Like, you look at some videos from Drift Day 1 or 2 or in that time frame, and they were there.
Yeah.
They may not have been driving, but they were there. And like, it's just crazy how like everyone is connected with this, and because we were so available with time to just be part of everything along the way, and where it has evolved. And I remember Josh getting his first 240, like he had a black 180, and like it's just like it's just funny like how everything evolves. And they were always around, but it's just like different levels of when things happened and how it progressed to now they're very much a face of Chicago drifting.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because like I met Josh when he had an ITR, right? But now he's like the go-to guy in Chicago drifting. I still remember when he first got the right-hand drive 240, right, with the firewall swap.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yo, I think I'm gonna get Type X Aero. What do you think?" I was like, "Yeah, you should go for it." Right, with the SSRs, like with the root beer brown, right? I'm like, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
But it's so weird.
They were always around, and I mean, and you heard a little bit about the whole history of Radiary racing and all that from Phil earlier, in his episode. But like, yeah, I mean, they've always been around. Josh has always been around. It's just he was in a different kind of realm at that point. And I'm going to call you out, Josh, if you're listening. But I remember at Norway, there was one day we were drifting, and he hopped in someone's car. It might have been like Wortman's car or something. And he tried to go out without a helmet. And like, I like jumped in front of the car, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you need like," I like yelled at him, and I was just like, "You don't go out," like, because we had insurance, we had like all like.
He's like, "What's the big deal?
Yeah,
there's nothing to hit."
And I was in my head, I was like, I would love to drift without a helmet and just whatever I want, but like I can't. Like, we have insurance, right? Like, this is the thing. But like, it's like he's always been around, and those guys have always been around, just in different capacities. But it's just really, really cool to see where it's gone, and that they're connected to Chicago drifting in a way that if you don't know the history, they've just always been around.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but I think you, me, and Phil have a particular insight because we left Chicago.
Yeah.
So we can see it from the outside now.
Yeah. But I think it. But I think it's great. Like they've been around for the entire time, but they now are carrying the flag, if it were.
Well, they always should have been.
And I can't think of like better people to carry the flag, right?
Yeah.
Like they're.
Shout out to Josh, Revgasm Josh.
Yeah. I still remember the day his ITR got stolen. That was a sad day in Chicago. But yeah, I mean, like
after that, I learned you always park like so you can't like take them.
But yeah, I mean, Josh and Chav and Ilya and Simba and Lei. I mean, they all had roots and started with Club FR, and they've progressed it into something where they are maybe bigger than that now, which is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool to see that progression, and I think I'm just hoping like the next generation of drivers with Club FR and that get into drifting can emulate what they're doing, because they're doing it really well.
Yeah.
Right. And they're doing it then. And I'm sorry, Ilya is in Proceed as well. Like they're all doing it from a place of love that it's only about driving with your friends and having the most fun possible. Right.
Well, here's another thing. They also like took it farther than where we left it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like definitely. They progressed the sport of drifting in their own way.
Yeah, definitely. And then open it up to people who around the country had the same feeling, but they had never had the medium to connect and say, I feel the way you feel.
Yeah.
Right. Like competition is not my end goal. My end goal is just to have the most fun possible and have a really, really cool looking car at the same time. Right.
Right.
So yeah,
It's
it's
super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this whiskey that I have no more of.
Yeah. What's your grade? The Whistle Pig.
I think I'm in. I'm in a solid A. I think it's my favorite.
Interesting. I think this is my favorite as well because it's the most unique.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's like it has more bite
Mm-hmm.
at the end.
Yep.
The finish
heat.
for me.
Yep.
But for a reason, it makes me like I'm drinking fucking whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Grow some hair in your chest.
Yeah.
Right. Like it tastes good. I don't dislike it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm having an adult beverage right now. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and what do you grade?
I like it. Yeah.
I would give it an A too.
A?
But
Yeah.
I know how much that bottle costs, so I don't know if I would go out and get it myself.
No, I wouldn't.
Just purely
Why,
as
how
No,
much
you
does it
use
cost?
suckers like me to drink it for
Yeah.
free.
No, how much does it cost?
The Boss Hog, the Whistle Pig is $500 a bottle.
Retail.
Oh shit!
Retail price.
I'm glad I graded it the best then.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad I validated your
Yeah.
But-
you're giving me some, Earl. Thanks.
Yeah.
You said this was finished in umeshu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you
I can taste it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. You really can. You
Taste
can
it.
taste like the hint of
The
plum.
plum, yeah.
Yeah, I can taste it. Yeah, yeah.
It's
I can
super
taste
cool.
it.
But
Yeah.
you also get that minty flavor you like from the
Yes.
ryes because it's a
Yeah,
rye.
yeah, rye.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this
But
is.
yeah, I give it an A.
Yeah, it's great.
Can I still buy this?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But it's $500.
But that's, I mean, you know, we've reached
Again,
a
if
point
it's
in our
once
life,
every once in a
maybe,
while, it makes sense.
like this bottle will last me like a year.
Yeah, I only drink it
So-
with you guys, right? I don't drink it by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And
You go to a
this-
bar and how much you spend in like
Yeah, it's like $20 a shot or whatever.
Not
right?
even,
So,
it's like-
or pour.
It's way more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's worth it.
$500 for a bottle is like that's fine these days.
I'll send you the details. I'll also put it up in the show notes. I know
and
Yeah, go ahead. Hon.
This whiskey, because it's so expensive, it's actually easy to find.
It is. It
No
is
one
because
buys
it
it.
sits on the shelf.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
But
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you rated Smoke Wagon or Whistle Pig the highest. It's the most expensive.
Yeah.
You rated Smoke Wagon the next best, which is happens to be the second most expensive. And you rated Blends
Sure.
the least favorite, and
But
it also
do you-
happens to be the cheapest.
Do
But
you,
all were good.
do
They're
you
all
have to-
like honorable.
Yeah.
do you have to put a premium on the Blenton since it's you have to bring it over in your suitcase?
Oh yeah. Oh god. Let me just tell you my COVID story. I know Hohen and Rob, I told you guys offline, but like for the listener, it was February of 2020. I'm in Korea. Yeah. I go. Yeah. No, but it's just insane, right? Like I go to Japan, right? And they're doing temperature scans, and there's only 100 cases of COVID. I'm like, what is going on? I come back to Korea, right? Mind you, I just left Korea the same day. I come back to Korea. Now they're doing temperature scans, right? And like making sure, like, oh, let me do this contact tracing. Where's your address? What's your phone number? How can I contact you?
Yeah.
Then 2 days later, I come back to America. Just come on in. That's how I knew we were gonna be fucked.
Oh, dude. Yeah. The US had nothing. When I came back from Europe, when I came back from Asia early in 2020, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody cares, but America, you're fucking up.
Hey, with the vaccine, we're
knew
pulling
that.
ourselves out of this shit.
Yeah, but that's what Rob was
Real
just
fast.
talking about. 11% spike this week.
Yeah, but the Europe actually shut down for that.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
America's whatever. Anyways, let's move on. It's neither here nor there. So I think we covered everything. So
this was definitely the longest interview we had.
Yeah, but it was also
Yeah,
very
sorry,
entertaining and
great.
very revealing. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Rob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can cut it all up and make it into whatever you want.
All right. So that's I guess it for tonight.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So last thing, Rob, before we end tonight, are there any shout outs you have?
Yeah, I mean, I hope we have enough time to go through them all. But I mean, I want a blanket statement and say that there's so much that has transpired over the years that I'm very fortunate of. That it only depends on people who have leaned on and have helped me. But and like, if I have a list to go through, I mean, Phil Lee. I mean, we wouldn't have Club Afar without Phil Lee, in all honesty. And then you've got Simba, you have Crab, Brian, you have Jesse, you have that whole crew.
Wartman, TF Dave, Mike.
Yeah, Wartman, TF Dave, Mike, Eric Francisco. You've got all of the people who
Josh Chow, Proceed, right? Lee.
All
Ilya.
of those guys, right? That have been.
It's a long list.
No, I mean, and he's pushing me along because it's a long list.
It's a long list.
But like, and that's just off the top of my head, but there are so many people along the way that I'm not going to be able to remember my name, which is no discredit to you, but like all of the people who joined Club FR in the beginning stages and signed up and came to events and pushed it along and were amazing friends, like those people are what made it what it is today. I mean, we're on Drift Day 70 something right now. Holy shit. And like, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, a few years ago we had Drift Day 50 was like a really crazy milestone. And I'm not directly involved anymore just because of proximity and life circumstance. But
I gotta pause right there real quick.
So like what Club FR did and what we had, like it was happening all around the States in different capacities. And I think, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. That's the next season for you.
So Rob, it's going to be the interview with you, me, Phil, and Simba, and
that's going to be an amazing one.
So hopefully, wait. So for Final Bout 4, can you get to Wisconsin?
Let me give you my wife's phone number, and you can make a phone
fine. That's fine. Honestly, I have no shame. I will ask her. I have no shame.
No, I mean, I think
make it a family thing.
Yeah. Let's all go to a racetrack.
But I'll bring my wife. I'll bring Parker. The kids can play, right?
We'll get at a racetrack in Bumblefuck.
Hey, we'll bring our parents too, right? You can bring your dad. I'll bring my parents. We can make it a thing if we really need to, right?
Yeah.
For Final Bout 4.
Yeah.
Because if you can make it out there, I'm gonna find you a Miata. I'll bring the FC.
No,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The offer stands.
Man. I got so bummed. Like last time I was out there, I was supposed to drive Mikey's Miata burst speed.
Yeah, Lil Phil's Miata.
And around which I got to give a shout out to Mikey, amazing driver. But like I was supposed to drive the car.
Travis Scott music video.
Yeah, that too.
That crazy.
But he ended up like crashing or touching like Simba and something. I couldn't drive it, but I was just like, man, I was like so close to driving that car. But anyway, so I mean that would be a cool interview that we do with the three of us, kind of chopping it up and
I want to do it at Final Bout 4 if you guys can make it out there.
Yeah, it's in October, right?
October. So if you can make it out there, September.
Yeah.
No.
There's a Motorways calendar.
There's a Drift Day in September, and there's Final Bout 4 in October.
Final Bout 4 is in September 1st.
What, September 1st?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's Labor Day weekend.
I'm on US Motorways.
USA, website. Oh, wait. Oh, Rob just dropped off.
He's like, fuck this.
Yeah. Hold on, let me find Rob. But yeah, we can do it for Final Bout 4.
I mean, at the worst case scenario, if Rob can't make it, he'll be with us through Zoom.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll find him a Miata to drive. I think his laptop battery died.
Oh yeah, because we were like, it's probably not gonna be that long. Yeah, his laptop probably died.
Yeah, so so for the listener, I'm just confirming on Facebook. that Rob's laptop died. I'm kind of laughing right now on the inside. uh,
No, this is pretty funny actually.
yeah, I know. So actually, I was gonna say for the outro, you and I need to just finish up.
Sure.
Hopefully, I'm gonna convince Rob to meet us at Final Bot 4. I'm gonna find him a Miata to drive. I'll bring the FC, and Phil will have the Corolla. And we'll just form our own stupid ass team. And I don't care if we get accepted or not. We have enough clout. We're just gonna drive anyways. So fuck it.
Y'all the OGs.
Exactly.
So you get
So
the honorary degrees.
Exactly. Right? Like we get the honorary PhD.
Dude, but I'm not gonna lie. Like through the whole thing, I couldn't help but think that it's like Fight Club at this point. It's spread out to like so many different regions, and it all started from it's like one butterfly wings flap of Rob. So when Rob was
it's the butterfly
junior
effect.
high,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a butterfly effect from when he was introduced to Japanese. That he took a school trip to Mitsuwa, came across Options magazine, and here we are.
Yeah, I know. It's literally the butterfly effect. This is like because again, I'm an outsider. I've also been able to see this. Unlike the people who are still doing it to this day. So it's just kind of amazing to see like how far it's progressed.
But yeah, dude, I definitely want to come along with all that. Obviously, I will.
Yeah, sorry, I'm texting Rob right now.
Well, since Rob got abruptly cut off, I want to say, nice to meet you, Rob. But looks like he already gone.
Yeah. I'll text it, yeah.
Or you could just put this in the recording. Just add it on there.
Yeah, I'll edit. Rob's like panicking right now about the editing. It's fine. It really is.
I think this makes it better.
Yeah, it does. Like, it adds some flavor.
Exactly. It's just like our intro.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, welcome to our podcast.
No, so thank you for listening to our podcast. Right? It's the end.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Rob's laptop died, so he ran out of power. But what he wanted to say was, he just wanted to shout out to everyone that's ever been involved with Club FR in any capacity, and because really without you guys it would have never happened, and the OGs really know without Club FR you don't get Final Bout and all the stuff that happens afterwards. But again, as Rob and I were discussing, really we got lucky. We happened to be at the right place in the right time to meet TF Dave, who's really the godfather of US drifting in our opinion. But you don't really know these things unless you just happen to be around and pay attention for a long enough time. Because when you're young and you're actually trying to make things happen, you don't actually make the things you want to happen. It's over time and through context that you see the effects of what you've actually done. And that's kind of what I want to impress upon the audience listening to the podcast. Like, I didn't happen to accidentally get into my position at Ford. I had just been actively looking to get into the OEM industry, and I happened to fall into my position at Ford. So there is a difference. But yeah, like, just my advice to any young people out there these days trying to figure out what they want to do is just do what you're passionate about, and if you stick with it long enough, good things will happen. So I don't know if you have any last words to say, Helen.
I was telling Rob earlier, that like I feel like I'm a completely an outsider of all this, because I've known you, but I've heard all these names, but I could never connect the dots. And I feel like this is pretty cool. Like by now, our third episode, I feel like I'm sort of going on this ride.
Yeah.
And even though I'm on the show and part of the show, I feel like I'm watching like a Netflix series where it's like each story sort of like connects the dot. So like for me, like I'm just like watching the story unfold myself. and I think that's pretty cool.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you're enjoying it then, because at least one person's entertained, because no one's gonna listen to this godforsaken show, right? But I think that's all I really wanted to cover. Oh, two more things. One, I'll see you tomorrow, because on Friday we're gonna pick our first single barrel. So any fans
Wait,
of
are
the
we
show,
picking the single barrel?
we're gonna start the discussion. Right? So any fans of the show, if you happen to like whiskey and you want a barrel selected by us and on behalf of the show, look out for that in the next few months or so. And then also what Rob and I have been alluding to in the background, I've also been working on building our own racetrack that can be used for Club FR or Final Bout and Grid Life, etc. So look for that, but that's probably in the next 3 to 5 years. But you'll probably get more information as we find it ourselves, to be honest. So thanks for listening, and hopefully you guys have a good night or a good morning wherever you're at. Anything else you got to add, Hon? All right, see you guys.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, I gotta get to Ford work now.